Is this WrestleMania season? It sure doesn't feel like it to me. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Monday night here on the Good Mic Work, Commentaries YouTube channel. This is your WWE Raw review from March 15th, 2001. Show just went off the air a few minutes ago. And at the very top of the hour, or the very top of the broadcast, I should say, WWE announced right off the bat that it will in fact be Bobby Lashley defending the WWE title against Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania in what they're calling the main event, which we're guessing is probably going to be the main event of night one. So that is now official. No other BS we're going to have to do to get to that. No other additional matches or qualifiers or number one contender matches or anything like that. Match is just announced, and that was kind of the big news. WWE almost, in a lot of ways tonight, I feel like they just realized how close WrestleMania really is, and they started planting the seeds and setting the table for a lot of these matches now heading into WrestleMania. And they did drop some pretty big hints as to what they're going to do at WrestleMania as well on this show. But overall, this Raw drug on a lot. Very underwhelming show. Certainly doesn't give you that WrestleMania vibe at all. So please hit me with your number grades, 1 through 10, letter grades, A, B, C, or D. Let me know what you think of this show tonight. I can't give this thing any better than a C, really, for what we saw, because there's just some weird shit going on there. And boy, do we got some stuff to talk about in terms of the Shane McMahon and Braun Strowman angle, which just got even more wacky tonight. And we'll see what the hell that's going to lead to at WrestleMania as well. But overall, not a really great Raw tonight heading into WrestleMania. Of course, this was the go home to Fastlane. We still have Fastlane in front of us before we get to WrestleMania, but you know, in terms of everything else, it's just kind of, I don't know, it just doesn't give you a really good feeling. Unlike last night. By the way, thank you to everybody that joined in last night for our watch-along of WrestleMania 19. Talk about a great time, man. That was 4 hours of fun last night, and we did WrestleMania 17 a couple of weeks back, and we're still going to do 2 more watch-alongs coming up. 1 week, 2 weeks from now, Sunday after next. Sunday after Fastlane, we're going to be watching probably WrestleMania 6, and then the Sunday after that, we'll be watching another WrestleMania, and then the Sunday after that will be WrestleMania. So still lots more of those to come on the channel, and thanks to everybody that was here last evening for that. Hello to everybody in the chat here that's been waiting for me. I want to knock out a couple of super chats, do a quick sound check. All right, we're looking good. I think we're good. Yeah, and we'll run through a little bit of wrestling news tonight as well, but then we'll just get right into the results here. What's up, George Morris? He's back with a $5 super. Hey, Greg, how you doing? I just signed up for Peacock, $9.99 a month, no ads. The first thing I saw was Fastlane ad and the Punky Brewster remake. That's interesting. Yeah, I have not even been on Peacock yet. I need to sign up because the pay-per-view is this Sunday. That will probably be on my list tonight or tomorrow to go ahead and sign up for Peacock. And I will get the premium of premium service that they have, the most premiest that they've got, because I really despise ads and shit. So I'd like to avoid as much of that as possible. But it's going to be a slow transition over to the Peacock network. WWE did release a few details on how that's all going to work. We are not just going to magically transform our WWE networks into Peacock. It is our responsibility to go and sign up for Peacock on our own, and then the WWE network will just, you know, cease to exist, and I suppose the payments will stop, and you'll be paying to Peacock instead. And it's probably going to be pretty slow going on getting a lot of the library transferred and ported over to Peacock as well, apparently, and this is going to be a slow process that's going to take, I guess, until SummerSlam, potentially longer to get done. So we're about to hit that. We're about to hit that transition into the Peacock. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes. It shouldn't affect the watch-alongs. I think WWE, in terms of getting the library transferred over, they're going to focus on the big stuff first, and I'm sure we're going to get the pay-per-views and all of that. So if we want to do watch-along for WrestleMania after Fastlane, we should be able to do that on Peacock. I'm assuming at least the WrestleManias will have been moved over there. So hopefully that will not create a roadblock for us. But it's about time to start doing that, and that's going to be on my list this week. And yeah, I saw the Punky Brewster remake stuff, a little bit of it. I'm curious what that's like. I was in grade school when Punky Brewster was on TV, so I remember that well. Nathan Hansen, what's up, dude? Appreciate the $2 from you. This might be the worst Mania ever. So poorly built. I know. I mean, I don't think on paper it could technically be that bad, but so far, you know, some of the sure things I haven't even felt that comfortable with. We talked about that on Saturday, that something's missing in that Roman Edge program. I expected it to be so much better. I expected it to be nail-biting stuff. I think a big problem is that WWE does book these damn pay-per-views in the way of where they need to go taking away from the big main event and, distracting themselves with other bullshit. In that case, it would be Daniel Bryan, who's doing a really good job. And I think a lot of fans would probably at this point almost rather see Daniel Bryan face Roman or win the title than Edge, because Daniel Bryan's made a good case for himself. So they do shit like that, and it doesn't do them any favors in terms of the booking and the angles and stuff like that. And something is just feeling extremely underwhelming this year about WrestleMania, because even if without the Thunderdome, even if there's no pandemic, we had fans in attendance. If this is what they were setting up for, we'd pretty much feel the same way, especially later on with what they did with Shane McMahon and Braun Strowman. That was crazy. Probably my favorite part of the night. Well, two favorite parts of the night on Raw. One was Matt Riddle zooming by Retribution on his scooter. How can you hate that? And also the challenge laid out and issued by Alexa Bliss to Randy Orton to face her in a one-on-one match this Sunday at Fastlane, which Randy Orton accepted. So that puts an interesting take on the Fastlane card, and I'm interested to see how that comes off, and if we will see The Fiend this Sunday, or if we will see The Fiend 1 week from tonight, or if we will not see The Fiend at all until WrestleMania, until match time with Randy Orton. But since Orton and Alexa are kind of set to, I guess, face each other on Sunday, I feel like that would be the place that Bray reappears. But I'd also be open to them holding off and just waiting until WrestleMania to re-debut what I assume is going to be a new look Fiend of some kind. Some of the letter grades rolling in: F, C, 1, C, D+, D-. Yeah, none of this is good. Yeah, I'm gonna go C-, I guess. Not a great Raw, but I mean, at least they were putting some stuff together for WrestleMania. But I certainly don't think anybody giving it a D grade is really overreacting at all. Yeah, the library won't fully be available until August. That's what we said. But I'm sure, like, pay-per-views, like, they should get the WrestleManias up. I could do that, in just a day. I could get that uploaded for you. So I think stuff like that hopefully will not cause any problems. But I think some of the stuff that will drag on is, just maybe archived stuff. Just lots of stuff that you really have to dig for on the network. But I think the major stuff, all the 24s, all their documentaries and their day ofs and all the pay-per-views, hopefully that'll get transferred over. And it might be a while on the Raws, the SmackDowns, maybe the NXT, maybe the tons of MSG shows they have on there, or just other random shit. So might be a little while, but I think the major stuff would be up pretty fast, I would imagine. Especially during WrestleMania time. Like, if, this is WrestleMania season, and if they transfer over to Peacock this Sunday, starting with Fastlane, and then there's no WrestleManias available, well, what the F, man? So I think they'll be there. Good to see you, Dave Sims. Glad you're here. Good to see Chick Magnet Joe as well. A+, better than a pipe bomb. That's the grade you're giving Raw tonight. I like people like you because it does not take much to entertain you, and I wish I was like that. And I try my best to see the good in everything, but damn, sometimes WWE just doesn't make no damn sense because they don't ever know what they're doing. They don't have their shit together. And we've seen what's happened to wrestling companies who don't have their shit together. They suck, and WWE is just not making a very good case this year for WrestleMania. And with WWE, with the report that WWE was back to kind of square one and they really don't have concrete plans in place yet for WrestleMania, it feels like that's coming together now based on what we saw. They planted the seeds for a whole bunch of stuff tonight. So we'll start getting into that. I do have one scheduling news tidbit for you. Things are going to be a little bit different this week. My work schedule is a little bit jacked, a little bit different, and I have found myself off on Friday night. So instead of me trying to come up here Saturday afternoon for the Winged Eagle, get a bunch of stuff in, knock out the results, talk about the wrestling news, and predict Fastlane, I think we're going to come up and do a SmackDown review instead. So this coming Friday, immediately after SmackDown on Fox, I may postpone it an hour. I might come up, an hour after that, at the same time I would for a Raw review. But most likely it'll be right after SmackDown, and we'll do a podcast on Friday night. We'll review SmackDown, talk about that, get into whatever wrestling news is going on that or during the week. And we'll probably touch on Wednesday night NXT and Dynamite as well. And then we'll predict Fastlane. We'll do all of that on Friday night, a little Friday night hangout to kick off the weekend in a good way. And then you probably won't hear from me on Saturday. And then, of course, this Sunday, we'll be up here immediately following Fastlane for a review. So keep that in mind. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and follow me over on Twitter so you can get all of the all the announcements there whenever I have schedule changes, shit like that. All right, that should knock out the nonsense. Not a huge audience in here yet, but if you guys who are here could do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button for me, I'd appreciate it. And let's get into these results. So like I said, right when Raw went on the air, almost immediately, very first thing they did is the announcers let us know that at WrestleMania, it will in fact be Bobby Lashley defending the WWE title against Drew McIntyre. Now, that's what we figured. They set the stage for that at Elimination Chamber with Bobby screwing over Drew. But then the Sheamus stuff, a lot of people were expecting maybe Sheamus could still be added to the match. But based on what we saw last week, we talked about this last week on the Raw review, when they did that double countout deal with Sheamus and Drew. And I'm like, well, there's your Fastlane match. They're going to do that at Fastlane, finish that up, and then Drew will go into WrestleMania to face Lashley. But I still thought they would have to do something to make the match versus Lashley official. Maybe like the winner of Sheamus and Drew faces Lashley or something like that. Excuse me. But they've gone ahead and announced that will in fact be the match. That is the right match to do. I'm just curious, how this is going to go down. What's the right thing to do here? And if you're in WWE shoes, what do you want to do? And what was the initial intent? Because I've been saying right from the beginning, putting the belt on Bobby Lashley on Raw 5 weeks ahead of WrestleMania was odd. I don't think we've ever seen a title change like that on TV. Closest, we've seen some at the February shows, like when Rock beat Angle and then went in to face Austin and stuff. But, I don't think we've ever seen the title change hands on a Raw leading up to a show, at least off the top of my head. Sid and Brett did a swap in February. So probably another one of the closest things I can think of. But can't think of another time when that was really done other than that 97 year. I don't know. So that was all very strange, and it made you wonder, what was their intent here? Is their intent to put the belt on a credible heel so Drew McIntyre can then beat this heel and get the moment that he was robbed of last year at Raymond James? But then once you put the belt on Lashley and you realize how goddamn good the dude looks with it, and you finally made this guy, a credible champion for the first time in his career after being there for so long, paying his dues. This is so long overdue. Do you really want to take that away from him right when you've made this new badass who looks great with the title, looks great with MVP? The whole presentation is, I think, fantastic with Bobby Lashley, and he's been very well protected in the last 6 months. He's been dominant. He's got that hurt lock that can just, rip your head off. I don't want to see that guy lose. So what the hell do you do here? And based on what we would see later on in the main event tonight, I'm not putting past a potential maybe heel turn or something like that for Drew McIntyre, because, you can't tell, what's going on here. Drew McIntyre and Sheamus have this really big match, this big blow off to, hopefully settle this really personal issue they've had with each other. And it almost seemed like tonight at the end of the show, they planted just a little bit of a seed there for them to kind of get back together and make up. I'm not sure. So they're kind of all over the place here, but I just don't know, what WWE thinks the right thing to do is. I know what I think the right thing to do is keep the belt on Lashley somehow. But do you want to just hurt, lock, and pin Drew? Because if you're doing the good guy, bad guy math for professional wrestling, Drew is supposed to win this belt back. Bobby Lashley was a son of a bitch at Elimination Chamber, coming out and attacking him after that grueling match, beating the shit out of him and allowing pathetic little bitch boy Miz to come out and beat him for the title. And then Lashley gets to beat Miz, this inferior opponent, and get the belt that way, in this dirty, shitty way. It feels like, Lashley needs to get his comeuppance now after all of this, after what he's done, how he screwed Drew over and basically stole the belt, by beating a 15-year-old girl in the Miz to win the title. Drew should get it back. But Greg doesn't want Drew to get it back. Greg wants Lashley to continue his run and potentially carry the belt into SummerSlam to face Brock or something. And I want Bobby to be turned into this, this credible, just ass-kicking fighter. And if you just claymore him and pin him again at WrestleMania, I'm not going to be the moron that says he was buried or anything, but it's not what I would do. And these guys have wrestled a lot before. I think McIntyre, wasn't Lashley like Drew's first big challenger after he won the title last year? Because I know we beat him in the empty Performance Center a time or two. So Bobby did everything he could do to make Drew when it was time to make Drew. So maybe Drew can repay the favor here and make Bobby. And yeah, he might not get his big moment to celebrate as champion, as a winner at WrestleMania, but he might still be able to get that WrestleMania main event championship match. Just the outcome might be a little bit different. And who knows, maybe they throw a swerve. Maybe we get a double turn. Fans are already, instinctively rooting for Lashley as it is. At least I feel like they are. This guy's a dirty heel based on what he's been doing the past couple of months, but I'm in love with him. So maybe you can do a deal where you can somehow book a double turn in that match. Drew comes out, as the heel, and that would make him winning a little bit easier if he did something shitty and he stole the title back, and all of a sudden he's the heel now, and Lashley's the face, and then Lashley chases him and then maybe wins the belt back from him in the big blow off or something like that. I think that you should at least start thinking about that for Drew McIntyre, because otherwise, I worry that regardless of the outcome here, especially probably more so if Drew wins, you're going to have some fans claiming it was the wrong decision and shit like that. So WWE just better be careful, because sometimes I feel like they put themselves in a situation where there's a very low probability that they're going to come out good on this, and it's going to be a losing proposition or something. So we'll see what they do with this feud program and where it goes. But I would assume, based on how it started, it shouldn't just be over at WrestleMania. That's why I have, that's why I think a heel turn or some sort of a double turn could be fun, because regardless of what happens at WrestleMania between these two guys, there probably will be another match after, at Backlash or whatever the next pay-per-view is. I don't know. Yeah, Michael. Well, this is a different time now. I mean, a heel retaining at WrestleMania is not that uncommon anymore. If this was the 90s, that was something that you never saw. Even when heels did win, like Sid almost did win at WrestleMania 8, or Yoko at WrestleMania 9, what happened? Warrior came out at the end of 8, Hogan came out at the end of 9. They always try to send the fans home happy, but these days, in modern times, that's not a guarantee anymore. Plus, you got to remember, this is a 2-night event, so you can get away on night 1 with closing out the show with a heel winning or a heel turn or something like that. No problem. You still got the next night. And remember, WrestleMania 34, I mean, I know all the fans were, I know technically Roman was a babyface, even though all the fans were against him, but he was the face going into that, and everybody was assuming he was going to beat Brock, and he didn't. And, WrestleMania 16, same thing. Triple H retained. It does happen. So there are no rules when it comes to that stuff anymore. I think for the first 15 or so WrestleManias, that rule was intact, because you never wanted to end WrestleMania. It was 16 changed it all. WrestleMania 16 in that fatal 4-way. So, yeah, I don't think they'll follow any rules on that anymore. Plus, 2-night event. So, Mike Witt, what's going on, man? How you doing? Maka International is here as well. An anonymous one. Ungovernable. What's up? What's up, Psychotic Savage? What's going on? Trey Williams is here as well, and Dave Sims and JJ Legg. Hello to everybody that's been joining us in the last couple of minutes. Please smash that thumbs up button. We are talking about this just riveting Monday Night Raw. I haven't even really gotten into the beginning of the show yet, because we've been talking about mostly the announcement of Bobby Lashley defending the title against Drew at WrestleMania, and what they could possibly do there with the finish, and what the right thing to do is, and how they can avoid shooting themselves in the foot and try to make this a win-win for everybody all around. And that's why I suggested the possibility of a double turn and maybe have Drew go heel. But we'll see. Bobby Lashley and MVP opened up the show after the announcement was made for WrestleMania. Bobby looks amazing. He's got the title around his waist, purple suit, sunglasses, looks like $1 million. Said that he proved all the haters wrong. Says that he destroyed Drew McIntyre at Elimination Chamber, and he will destroy him again at WrestleMania. That prompts The Miz and Morrison to come out, so they're still not done. You think we're over and done with The Miz, but we're not. This moron is out there. But luckily, it was, I was okay with it, because John Morrison just looked fabulous. His hair, I put on Twitter that John Morrison looks exactly like what I thought people in the future would look like when I was a kid. He's got that. He looked like he could be in that part of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure where they land in the future and there's those people in the chairs and they're singing the song. You know what I mean? Or he'd fit right into Back to the Future too. Just with the glasses and the hair, he looks fucking ridiculous, but also awesome at the same time. So Miz just thinks that, he was done wrong, or whatever the hell he was saying. Basically, he thinks that Drew McIntyre, is the one that's not worthy to be in the WrestleMania match, and that Miz should replace him. And that prompts Drew to come out. Drew starts talking to Lashley, gets in his face. Miz and Morrison are still on the outside. He talks about the similar paths. It took him 17 years to get to the title. It took Bobby Lashley 16. And they both basically claim that the other needs to be worried about them. McIntyre thinks, or Lashley thinks, that McIntyre shouldn't be worried about Sheamus. He should be worried about him. McIntyre says the same thing to Lashley, and then Miz chimes in and goes, "And me, you should be worried about me." And they kind of look at him like, basically, forgot you were even here. And then finally, Drew calls Bobby Lashley a big bald bitch, which I take offense to that. A brawl ensues, and Miz winds up getting a cheap shot on Drew McIntyre in the ring while Lashley is leaving, and Lashley's going up the stage, and he's got his back turned on the stage, and then he's attacked by Sheamus from behind, who puts a hurting on Bobby Lashley, and Sheamus would then, right after the commercial, go on to challenge Bobby Lashley to a match later on in the night. So I guess he basically was mad at Bobby because he stuck his nose into his business by bringing up his name and shit like that. That was the reasoning that Sheamus used for attacking Bobby on the stage, and challenged him later on, and that match was made official. So we would get Lashley and Sheamus in the main event. After that, we go to commercial, we come back, and we've got Drew McIntyre one-on-one with The Miz. I couldn't tell if this was added impromptu or if they had pre-advertised this. I think it was just added during the scuffle or whatever, during the commercial break, because I do not listen to the announcers hardly at all. But we come back from commercial, they're in the ring facing each other, and McIntyre, of course, doesn't make makes pretty short work of The Miz, claymoring him for the pin. I'm sorry, no, he doesn't. He claymores him, omits to go for the pin, gets down, refuses to pin him, picks him up, puts him in the hurt lock instead, and Miz submits. So he beats The Miz with Lashley's own move, basically sending a message to Lashley that his title's in trouble come WrestleMania. And now we begin the Strowman and Shane shit, which, Jesus, man, we thought last week was dumb. This was dumber. This was crazy. We got a lot to talk about here. This spanned 2 segments, and so we'll kind of combine them together and talk about both of them. So Braun Strowman is shown prior to the commercial, I believe, walking towards the ring. He's going to go out there again and issue yet another, demand another apology from Shane McMahon. Just compelling stuff here. Excuse me. So he comes out to the ring. He's talking right into the hard cam, demanding that Shane comes out there and apologize for disrespecting him and blah, blah, blah. Shane then comes out to the ring and just starts rehashing all the same shit he said last week. I would never call you stupid. I would never do that. I would never call or never make fun or insult another human being while he's doing it at the same time. Strowman then says Shane is afraid, to make your challenge because he goes, I know you want a match with me, but you're just too chicken shit to do it. So why don't I do it for you? I challenge you to a match tonight. So here we think they're going to build this for WrestleMania. Strowman challenges for Shane for later in the night. And then Shane goes on to say, like, you don't want none of this. You don't want none of this, which is ridiculous. And then all of a sudden changes his tune. Here he's been trying to say, I would never call you stupid. Now all of a sudden, Braun is the dumbest motherfucker in the world. I know you're stupid. I've always known you're stupid. And you want a piece of me. You can't handle me. But you know what? It's on. So Shane agrees to do the match. Now, we do a couple of things before we get to that, but we're going to fast forward right to, we do a lot, actually, have a lot of matches before that actually happens, but we'll fast forward to that part because it was so bizarre. So now it's time for Shane McMahon versus Braun Strowman. Shane comes out to the ring first, followed by Strowman. The bell never rings. And because Shane immediately gets on the mic and he tries to stall, he tells Strowman that he needs to warm up. He's doing push-ups and shit on the outside of the ring. He's jogging in place, and he's just being a douche, which we read the reports earlier this week that is kind of the intent here. We all thought that Shane forgot his lines and shit last week, but apparently this is all done by design. Shane is trying to come off as the biggest douchebag imaginable, and he's succeeding at that because this whole thing is a turnoff to me. I'm not interested in this angle. I don't give a shit about it at all. It's not interesting, and it came completely out of nowhere, and it's so simple and stupid. Just calling somebody else stupid. This is just a rehash of the Big Show. Which way did he go? We already did this shit 20 years ago. And here you got this company with this anti-bullying campaign and be a star and, and all this shit. And he's basically bullying Braun Strowman by insulting him and calling him dumb and all that shit. So anyway, finally, Strowman has enough. He jumps out of the ring to start chasing Shane around. Shane is avoiding him at first. Eventually, Strowman catches him and then just starts beating the shit out of him. So you figure that Strowman is going to get some revenge here. Shane's going to do something to, push the issue some more next week, and then we'll set up some big gimmick match at WrestleMania designed for Shane McMahon to fly off the top of some shit at Raymond James Stadium. Maybe climb up to the stadium lights and just Peter Pan off them bitches. Who knows? But whatever they're going to do, it's going to be something, but I wasn't expecting them to get it to it this way. So Strowman, like I said, gets his hands on Shane, beats the hell out of him on the outside of the ring. Shane kind of gets away long enough to grab one of the cameras from the cameramen, and then he just dives and nails Braun Strowman with the camera. and then proceeds just to beat the shit out of Strowman. Continues the assault on him, hits him with the camera a couple of times, lays him out on the table, goes for the Shane McMahon classic top rope to announce table elbow drop and hits that on Braun Strowman, goes under the ring, pulls out 2 buckets of this green shit, like this Nickelodeon slime, and just dumps him all over Braun Strowman and picks him up and is screaming in his face and calling him stupid, completely humiliating Braun Strowman. This is crazy. I mean, I know he used a camera, but a camera, please, this is the guy that tips over ambulances, school buses, and he just bites chainsaws in half for a snack. All of a sudden, this 53-year-old man is going to kick his ass. I mean, this was a legitimate street fight. Shane didn't have help. He didn't have 3 buddies out there. He didn't have the Mean Street Posse with him. He didn't have anybody out there helping him. This was just a fight between 2 guys. Anything goes. There was no bell. There was no rules. Braun could have picked up a camera. Braun could have picked up the steps and walloped Shane with him if he wanted to. He chose not to. Shane grabbed a camera, hit Braun Strowman, outsmarted him, and basically beat him in a one-on-one fist fight is how it happened. I mean, if you're in a bar fight, if there's some big thing there, I'll pick it up and hit somebody with it. I don't give a shit. So to me, like, Shane didn't even cheat. This was a fight between 2 men, and Shane kicked his ass. Does that sound like anything we would come to expect from Braun Strowman if this was 2017? This very idea, me just saying this shit out loud, would be absurd. But it happened. So I don't know. Did Strowman do something to piss off Vince? Did he clog up his personal toilet? Did he blow it up in there after a lunch full of burritos, crab cakes, and broccoli? What happened? Seems like he's in the doghouse here when Shane McMahon is beating the shit out of him in a legitimate fight on TV. How do you even do a WrestleMania match now? Shane won. There's nothing to do. Because imagine if you do some sort of a WrestleMania match that's like no holds barred or anything goes, falls count anywhere. You can use whatever you want. You mean to tell me we're not going to see some chairs and stairs and fire extinguishers and lead pipes and all sorts of other foreign objects used in those matches? We're going to see a lot of that. Normally in those type of matches, you see multiple chair shots, multiple lead pipe shots. Somebody always falls off something. 1 camera to the face does Strowman in. He should be able to absorb 100 times more than that, based on the type of match these 2 guys are probably going to have at WrestleMania, assuming. So this whole thing was just bizarre to me. Strowman got punked out, looked like a bitch, straight up. Shane McMahon got the best of him in every way, outworked him on the mic, tricked him, outsmarted him in the street fight, hit him with a camera, fucked him up, humiliated him, basically just took a piss on him right there on live USA Network, right there on TV. So that whole thing is interesting, unless I'm completely misreading this, but to me, Shane just went out there against Strowman, they had a fight, and Shane beat him. Weird. I don't know. Oh yeah, Martin, it was a plate of crab cakes. Oh my God. Yeah, he just looks bad. I don't even know how you come back from this. I mean, he was mad after, Shane is leaving, and you hear him go, I'm going to get your ass. And I'm like, well, you had a chance to get his ass, and you failed, and he made you look like a bitch. Look at your green ass. You're greener than that fucking belt you won in Saudi Arabia a couple years ago. Like, Jesus. So that, to me, was just so crazy, because how do they think that that's going to, they've already, fans who like to use the word buried, this, my friends, was a burial. This was the definition of it, because you don't come back from this. Like, what is Strowman's reasoning for even wanting another fight? So you can get hit by a camera again and get beat again? Like, what the fuck? So, I mean, you would think if you're twice somebody's size and half their age, they might need a camera to help beat you. It wasn't even like that big of a deal. I just cannot believe that that's all it took. Camera to the face was enough to do Strowman in like that and be humiliated to that degree, by somebody who's in his 50s. And, wow. All right. Well, we'll see. What do you think they're going to do now at WrestleMania? Like, what kind of match they're going to have? Strowman's pissed, so he's going to be mad or whatever. They'll probably bypass this on Fastlane. Strowman will come out next week and demand another apology for getting green shit dumped on him. What's going to happen then? You get your ass kicked again and get purple shit dumped on you? I don't know. But apparently he'll have more to say about this probably next week. He'll challenge Shane to some sort of a match. You know how they did the Mimosa match with Jericho and MJF? Maybe they do one of those, but with 2 big pools of green shit. I don't know. They could do that, and then maybe Shane falls from a really high thing into the green shit. Who knows? But yeah, that whole situation is whack, man. Let me cruise over here to the chat, make sure I'm not behind on any super chats or anything like that, and we'll get into the next thing that happened on Raw, where did I leave off? So we're going to be talking about, oh yeah, the women's tag, and then the tag team championship match, which was another kind of surprising part of the show tonight. Spectra, there you are. I knew I'd seen one. Thank you, dude, for the $5. I appreciate that. Just came in. Heard Shane beat Braun. So glad there's good storylines and matches on Wednesdays. Why does Raw take one step forward and 100 and 1,000 back? I don't know. It's been the story of their damn lives. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't an official match. It was supposed to be. Apparently, the bell never rang. But it was two guys fighting, and Shane beat him. Just whipped his ass. Whipped his ass, man. Ugh, so crazy. Excuse me. Sorry for clearing my throat. I'd love a like and a thumbs up. I'd appreciate if you guys could smash that for me as we continue on with the Raw results. We got R-Truth and Mandy and Dana Brooke, Naomi and Lana all backstage. Or the ladies are back there first. R-Truth approaches them. He's decked out in Stone Cold Steve Austin stuff. He's got the Smoking Skull replica belt. He's got the vest. I think he's got one of those Broken Skull IPAs in his hand. And he thinks it's 316 day, which today is 315. Tomorrow is 316. A couple of years ago, Austin actually retweeted me. I should dig up that tweet, actually, now that I think about it. So R-Truth doesn't know what fucking day it is, and he's out there. He's ready to celebrate 316 day, but it's the wrong day. Last year, I think it fell. They did like was that the show that Austin drank with Becky? I think he was there for 316 day last year. So R-Truth doesn't know what's up, and he comes in and makes a fool out of himself. That would not be the last time we would see R-Truth because he was involved in another title change, which was pretty funny later on. After that, we get Naomi and Lana taking on Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. Asuka comes out during the match because you have Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler on commentary here, and Shayna is booked in a match against Asuka later on in the night. Asuka's just returning from getting those front teeth knocked out and apparently a concussion. She's good to go now, and she's going to be facing Baszler later on, but she's pissed because she got her chiclets knocked out, and that sucks. I know what it's like to have your teeth knocked out. It ain't fucking fun. So she's pissed. She comes out right in the middle of this tag team match. Baszler jumps off headset. They start brawling in the aisleway, and Asuka basically just kicks her ass. During all of that going on, Mandy and Dana are able to score the victory in the ring during all the commotion, and that was what it was. After that, we go backstage to Matt Riddle and the New Day. The New Day are getting ready. They're at Gorilla getting ready to go out for their match against the Hurt Business. And Riddle shows up, and he's got that sweet-ass scooter, and he starts, another one of these funny exchanges where he starts suggesting all sorts of stuff like getting matching tattoos and maybe matching stallions so they can all ride off in the sunset together. If that fool shows up there like Andre and the Princess Bride with 3 stallions, that's going to crack me up. And he goes on to, they go on to wish each other luck in the respective title matches because not only does the New Day get a shot at the tag titles, Matt Riddle's defending the U.S. title against Ali, and Kofi goes, I hate that guy. Funny exchange between those guys. Then we go to commercial. I think we go back, and we're out to the ring now for the New Day taking on the Hurt Business for the tag team titles. New Day got the victory here. Kofi Kingston pinned Shelton Benjamin in the end to win the titles. Kind of a surprise there, considering the Hurt Business is so strong. And if you notice, Cedric and Shelton have not been in the ring with Lashley during his promos. I think they've kind of been isolating MVP with him because the Shelton and Cedric are kind of a weak team. They lose a lot. They never get along. Cedric's nuts. I don't think, and they seem, they got some weakness to them. And I don't think they want to pair them specifically with Lashley all the time. You can do the backstage deal where they're all coming into the building together or they're backstage together or whatever. But, I almost like that when Lashley's out there, MVP's with him and MVP only, because if it was up to me, I'd be keeping the Hurt Business pretty strong right now going into WrestleMania and putting the championships on the New Day, which I'm happy for them because they did set a record. This is their 363rd title run. That's great, but why are they doing that? And we might have found out immediately. WWE, sometimes they take 3 or 4 segments just to make one point. And then sometimes they do 3 or 4 things in the same damn segment. So as soon as we crown brand new Raw Tag Team Champions in the New Day, as they're celebrating, AJ Styles music hits, and he comes down there with Omos. I almost don't know what his name is. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, so I'm sorry, Omos. But anyway, this I didn't see coming either. AJ gets on the mic and basically challenges the New Day for the Raw Tag Team titles at WrestleMania. Him and Omos taking on Kofi and Xavier. and they accept. And that match is apparently official. AJ and Omos taking on the New Day Raw Tag Team Championship match at WrestleMania. So that's a surprise. A lot of us had AJ figured into maybe a match against Triple H. Might be kind of interesting. I said last week that if they're going to do that, they better hurry the hell up, because I don't even know how you even make an issue between two guys other than just them coming out and staring at the sign. There's not enough. They haven't planted any seed. They haven't been building this. They didn't do anything last year to really make you think that could happen. So if you did it now, 3 weeks away from the show, you're just doing it for the sake of doing it. So I had my doubts about that one as well, but I don't think AJ being in a tag title match is something that I had on my bingo card, as they like to say. Didn't see that one coming at all. Interesting. They kind of make like a new colossal connection. Doesn't Omos have some sort of Colossus nickname for himself or something? So, they kind of have they're kind of like the new colossal connection. If they do, in fact, if this match does in fact happen, I believe it will because it's official, they'll probably win the tag team titles from the New Day, which is probably why they picked up the tags here, to maybe pass them over to AJ and Omos. But kind of a weird team. It sort of reminds me of Dakota and Raquel a bit, but I just kind of thought that he was AJ's backup, not necessarily tag team partner. So they're going to do the Sean Diesel thing maybe with those two guys. We'll see where it goes. Interesting. That's not what I had in mind for AJ, because he has kind of been protected on TV too. Beat Randy Orton last week, and he hasn't been pinned himself in quite a while, and he's always in high profile matches. I thought he'd just be in maybe a little bit higher of a profile match than this, unless they have something super fun planned for this that we're not seeing. We'll find out. After that, we go backstage. This is exactly what we expected to happen eventually with the Damian Priest, Bad Bunny, Miz, and Morrison. They're all backstage together, Priest and Bunny, making fun of the Miz for losing the title and losing his briefcase. And Miz gets all pissed, barks back a little bit. By the way, Bad Bunny apparently won Best Latin Pop Album of 2021 at the Grammys last night. A lot of talk about the Grammys. I have not watched the Grammys since 1980. Never. Never. I've never given a shit about the Grammys, like literally at all. I did see Jericho hilariously tweet out in anger that they didn't do any sort of a tribute to Eddie Van Halen, when in fact they did. And he was just drunk. So Jericho was drunk tweeting again last night, which is pretty funny. But and went on. He was so mad. He was like, "Man, if you guys ever try to give Fozzy a Grammy, we're not going to accept it." And I'm like, "I think you're safe there, Jericho. I don't think they're going to be offering you one." But congrats to Bad Bunny. Apparently, I didn't see this. My girlfriend told me, was he on the Grammys with his 24/7 title? How can you not like this guy? Boy, have I changed my tune. The minute he got there, I was like, no, not even for a minute. No, I don't like him. Don't know who he is. Don't give a shit about him. And all that. I was right on board with that bandwagon. But once I started seeing all the hate and I started looking at it a little bit closer, I'm now a Bad Bunny fan. And I like that he just represents, he's carrying the belt with him. I'd be embarrassed to take that thing anywhere with me, much less on national TV. If somebody paid me $1,000 to take it to the store and just walk around, do my grocery shopping with it, I'd be hesitant. I don't think it would be worth that $1,000. I'd be so goddamn embarrassed. This fool goes on national TV. Good for Bad Bunny. He's awesome. Anyway, they're backstage there, bickering back and forth, and, they're basically planting even more of that seed. We know we're going to get that tag match at WrestleMania. We've been talking about that prior to The Miz even winning the WWE title. And I said right from the start, for all the people that thought Bad Bunny would cost The Miz the title, I'm like, you don't need that to happen. Bad Bunny, Drew or Lashley doesn't need any help to beat The Miz, so that would be stupid. And that you could still get to the tag match without needing Bad Bunny to do that. All you got to do is do a backstage segment where Priest and Bunny are making fun of The Miz, and there you go. And that's exactly what we saw. So that's all you really needed to do to make this match. So next week, they'll probably do something more in the ring. We would see more with them here in just a minute. And it'll finally make that match official, probably next week after Fastlane. But anyway, I think Miz and Morrison, they kind of leave. R-Truth, who's still lurking around with all of his Stone Cold gear, he tries to sneak up on Bad Bunny with, I guess he's going to hit him with like a Stone Cold lunchbox, hit him on the head. And Damian Priest sees him coming. He goes, "What are you doing? You're trying to sneak up on us?" And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm come bearing gifts. And he gives everything to Bad Bunny. He's got a Steve Austin action figure or a doll. He's got one of those beers. He gives him a Broken Skull IPA. He gives him that nice tin Austin 316 lunchbox. And the best of all, gives him the Smoking Skull replica belt and just hands it all over to Bad Bunny. And Bad Bunny's like, "You know what? I appreciate this. And I think that you should carry this title." And he actually takes the 24/7 title off of himself and hands it over to R-Truth. I know this is a silly title, so I'm not going to be the guy that says, oh, it sucks that they just passed it over. I really don't want to be that, but I really don't like it when they just hand the belt over. But it's Bad Bunny. What else did you want him to do? I hate to say, I can't believe I'm about to say this out loud, but they probably don't want him to take a pin right now. They don't want him to get like pinned, even if it's in a weird situation backstage ahead of his WrestleMania match, because he's going to win that match. And they probably want him to win his first, real match. They don't want him to have an L on his record prior to WrestleMania. So pardon the phrase here, but they're keeping him strong. That's actually literally what they're doing with the way he gave the belt to R-Truth. And I just cannot believe that. But in the end, I don't care. R-Truth makes everything better. When Bunny began to give it to him, he's like, for real? I can have it? And he's got it. He's looking at it, and he's just so excited, so happy, thanks him. And then even Damian Priest goes, now what's his name? And he goes, Bad Bunny. So he knows his name now. He's very happy. He's got his baby back. And Bad Bunny walks away with some pretty nice merchandise and a pretty fair trade-off there. So I would trade the legit 24/7 title. I would trade being champion for a Smoking Skull replica. Totally. And a lunchbox. Don't forget about the lunchbox. Without the lunchbox, maybe. But, once you give him a lunchbox, how can you say no? So I don't think anybody should really be upset about that. It's not like Bad Bunny beat Hogan and then gave the belt to somebody else on NBC in front of 33 million viewers. It's just the 24/7 titles. Who gives a shit? After that, we go to the ring. We've got a one-on-one match. Damian Priest taking on Jackson Riker. Not much of a match there. Damian Priest makes quick work of him. Hits him with his finisher. I believe it's called Hit the Lights now. It used to be called Reckoning, and they changed it to Hit the Lights, at least I think. During the match, Elias jumped in the ring. He's about to hit Damian Priest with a guitar. Bunny grabs the guitar away from Elias, and then Elias is about to beat the shit out of Bad Bunny, picks him up for a slam. Bunny fights out of it, and I think he even hits a couple of right hands on Elias, and that's when Damian Priest hits the Hit the Lights for the win. So Bunny got a little bit physical there, and then he would get more physical right after this. After the match, John Morrison would come down to the stage to act as a distraction, while The Miz came in from behind and hit Bad Bunny in the back with Elias's guitar. So there you go. Now you're starting to see Bunny get a little bit more physical. He shedded that 24/7 title because that's something that's really not needed for any of this. So he got that out of his way. Truth has got that back now, and now they can focus solely on Priest, Bunny, Miz, and Morrison. And that's going to be the tag you got to think that we're going to get at WrestleMania with those guys. So a lot of that was set in motion tonight. After that was when we got that weird Braun Strowman and Shane McMahon segment that we just discussed with the green slime and all that bullshit. And then after that, we got a recap of what went down last week with Alexa Bliss and Randy Orton in that match with AJ Styles. And then we get Alexa backstage swinging on the swing. She's got the creepy-ass contacts in. Real big close-up of her pretty face, which is almost like too close. I was like, Jesus, WWE, I don't need to see her tonsils. But she's swinging there. She's smiling. And she says, she goes, look, Randy Orton, if you want me out of your life, then you need to take me out this Sunday. And basically challenges Randy Orton to a one-on-one match at Fastlane. Which later on, backstage, a couple of segments later, Randy Orton gets interviewed, and he accepts the one-on-one challenge. And that should be interesting to see how that goes. I mean, is the first WWE pay-per-view on Peacock going to have a guy beat the shit out of a woman? Crazy, man. But I think Alexa Bliss, at this point, she deserves a good RKO. I know she got one before. I think she deserves one. She's done a lot. If somebody's making me spit up blood, I might have to RKO you. I don't care what gender you are. So yeah, I think that's a deal breaker. If you make black ooze come out of my orifices, I'm RKOing your ass, no doubt about it. So we'll see. What do you guys think? Do we get Fiend on Sunday, or do they save that for a Raw or the Raw after, or do we not see him until WrestleMania? I've been kind of saying lately that I hope we don't see him until WrestleMania, but some sort of an appearance at Fastlane might be cool. Got to think about that it is the first one on the Peacock, so maybe they want big things to happen. I don't know. Yeah, I think I knew that about Omos, born in Nigeria. He should be the one backing up Apollo Crews. He'd look awesome. My God. Yeah, how come little Jimmy isn't in the record books yet as 24/7 champion? They should do that. R-Truth doesn't bug me yet. R-Truth, I mean, some of the stuff is hit or miss, but for the most part, he's a national treasure, man. I will never reject R-Truth on TV because we're not going to have him forever. You know, it will be cool though to see like an 80-year-old R-Truth appear on like Raw, special Raws or old school Raws in the future, just randomly, because Kamala would do that for a long time. Sometimes just randomly in 2005, you just see Kamala standing on a desk or something backstage, just randomly as hell. I think maybe R-Truth could be something like that, you know, because he's a healthy guy. He'll be alive forever. Would love to see R-Truth just continue to at least show his face, kind of like how you know, Ron Simmons does now, Blassie did before, random guys that, you know, as long as they can show up, they show up. Hurricane sometimes. What came next on Raw? Oh, yeah, we get Shayna Baszler taking on Asuka. So they already had a little scuffle earlier on in the night during that women's tag match earlier. And Asuka has a very different attitude. You could see her teeth, you know, when she revealed the mask, you could see that fresh work done. Doesn't look like she's had the crowns put on yet. And she had kind of like this just more aggressive streak, which we all like to see out of Asuka. I wish we saw more out of this of her. And she just beat the shit out of Shayna Baszler for most of this match and winds up getting real vicious at the end, just kicking the crap out of her face and then taking her head and kicking it and slamming it right into the bottom turnbuckle. Then she removes the protective turnbuckle to expose the steel and just basically makes Shayna bite the steel and kicks her and basically just tries to knock her teeth out. And Shayna is really, really selling the teeth after Asuka just basically assaults her like that. So Asuka won the match, though, with basically the Brett and Piper finish, or the Brett Austin finish at Survivor Series. Baszler locks in the Kira Fuda clutch, and Asuka just pushes back, rolls up, pins her shoulders down, 1, 2, 3, and wins the match. And then goes through with the result, or with the assault, on Shayna Baszler's teeth. I was laughing. I was like, where's Britt Baker? We need Britt Baker to come in here and be a part of this. Maybe be the special enforcer for a future match, or to maybe repair these poor ladies' teeth, because their grill is getting damaged. So we'll see what this means for Asuka and Baszler, if anything more comes of this, or if this was just Asuka beating the hell out of her and that's it. Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax do have a title defense this Sunday against the team I do not like of Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. So we'll see if they hold on to the titles there. You still got to do something with the Raw Women's title at WrestleMania. We obviously know Charlotte is going to be involved in that match. There's no way she's going to be in anything other than a title match at WrestleMania. She did issue a challenge, I think last week or the week before, to Asuka officially, but she wasn't just given that. There's probably going to be some sort of a match. I thought they would set that up tonight and have Asuka face somebody, or I'm sorry, Charlotte face somebody and at Fastlane, and the winner faces Asuka. But since they're kind of stalling on that, I'm really hoping there is still time to bring in Rhea Ripley. We saw yet another promo for her tonight, another vignette or little video piece on her debut, and it just says coming soon. And next week would be good, because now Fastlane is done. It's the post Fastlane Raw, your first show heading into now your official little miniature road there to WrestleMania. You could have Charlotte come out there, and then Asuka, and Charlotte challenges her, and Asuka says okay, and then Ripley's music hits. She comes down to the ring and says, hey, I got unfinished business with you. There's so much history there, and just make the damn thing a triple threat, and put Ripley in there. I would have loved if they would have figured out a way to get Ripley on the roster sooner. And I know this kind of leaves Asuka out in the cold, and I'm sorry about that, but I really wanted to get that Ripley and Charlotte rematch somehow, because I would love to see Charlotte pass that win back to her. And probably not going to get that now, but it would, I think, be in WWE's best interest to try to get Rhea Ripley onto the card, because otherwise she was on WrestleMania last year as an NXT star. How are you not going to have her involved in WrestleMania, especially when she was in the ring with one of the women in the title match? Just to completely leave her off WrestleMania seems ridiculous, and there cannot be any way they do that. So next week, I'm going to be watching closely Monday Night Raw, because if Rhea Ripley does not show up next week, I'm going to be bummed, because that is pretty much a good sign that she's probably not going to show up at all. Can't see her coming out in the go-home show and making a last-minute change or anything like that. This feels like something that we should get a little bit of build for on TV prior to the match, So it's like next week is the cutoff date. If Ripley doesn't appear on Raw 1 week from tonight, I don't think she's going to appear. So she better. But I guess worst case scenario, if she doesn't, we're probably just going to get Asuka and Charlotte again, which I don't entirely hate. But I think we kind of all know who the winner of that might be. Yeah, and I think so Charlotte got the win last year, so I would like to see Ripley, Ripley could pin Asuka in the triple threat, win the title, and then maybe go on to have that rematch with Charlotte at another pay-per-view. Could be. Maybe the next pay-per-view, maybe even on Raw. I don't know. But whatever they do here, I think you're going to have to add Ripley to that to make that more interesting, because I'm hoping it's going to be one-on-one for the SmackDown title, Sasha and Bianca. So you might as well make this one a triple threat. So it feels like Ripley is likely, but like I said, they don't do it next week. They might not do it. After that, we get Matt Riddle, defending his U.S. title against Mustafa Ali. And the best part about this was prior to the match, Ali's in the backstage area with Retribution around him. They're kind of hyping themselves up, and then just in rides Matt Riddle. Whee! And he comes in with that scooter, and he rides right through them, like right in between the little circle, just rides right past them. That was actually funny. I know a lot of people don't like Riddle. Oh, they turned him into a comedy act. Riddle cracks me up sometimes. That was pretty funny to me, and one of the best parts off of the show. Match was pretty good, because on paper, Riddle and Ali is all right. Sick-ass neck breaker from the apron, basically like a shake, rattle, and roll that Ali delivered to Riddle off the apron onto the floor. Just looked sick as hell. In the end, Matt Riddle is able to recover. I think there was a little bit of miscommunication there with Retribution. He hits the Bo Derek on Ali and retains the title. And then after the match, Ali continues to rip in to his troops again. This is a recurring thing that we see every week with Ali. He's constantly pissed at these guys. So we'll see if this actually leads to anything, or if there is some sort of a change, or if we get any sort of inner circle level swerve with these guys, or maybe they bring in their version of an MJF. I don't know, but we'll see if any changes are going to be made to Retribution soon, because they sure as shit are teasing it. But Ali failed in his attempt to win the U.S. title. As much as I like Ali, I'm actually fine with that outcome, at least for tonight. After that, we get McIntyre coming back out to the ring again. He's cutting a promo on Sheamus and their match against each other this Sunday at Fastlane. And he says he's going to remain out there for the main event of Bobby Lashley versus Sheamus. So he picks up a chair and basically just sits right in the aisleway there as Lashley and Sheamus come out to have their match. Pretty much what you'd expect out of these two beef muffins here. Just a lot of back and forth brawling. Bobby comes face to face with McIntyre on the outside of the ring prior to the commercial break. We come back from commercial, continuing to beat the hell out of each other. Big superplex spot onto Sheamus delivered by Bobby Lashley, which looked really good. The finish saw a couple of counters. Sheamus first countered the spear with a knee to the face and then a white noise for a very close near fall, and then Lashley would wind up countering the brogue kick with a successful spear and pinning Sheamus for the win. After the match, after he's done defeating Sheamus, he then picks Sheamus up and continues the attack, putting him in the hurt lock. That prompts Drew to get up on the apron and kind of watch. And he gets in the ring and actually claymores Bobby Lashley to end the show, and even kind of stands in the ring a little bit with Sheamus, and is there jawing back and forth. So Sheamus and Drew have got to wrap up their business on Sunday, but I got this feeling here that they're going to be back friends again or something, and this would be an excellent way to maybe tie in some sort of a heel turn or something like that for McIntyre at WrestleMania. He'll, finish his deal with Sheamus on Sunday. They'll have a great match, I'm sure. McIntyre will win. He'll win the blow-off. Maybe, since that will be a real blow-off, you'll kind of see them stand in the ring with each other because of their history, because of how long they've been friends. Their issue is over now. It's squashed. Maybe we get a little bit of a fist bump, or maybe we will get a little bit of an okay, see you down the road type of thing. And then maybe Sheamus comes to aid Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania or something like that. And then they reform their bond, this time as heels. Well, I guess Sheamus already is one. And maybe something like that happens. But just the way it feels like WWE is already planting the seed for these guys to have moved on from their feud before the blow-off even happens, makes me wonder about it, because this is supposed to be a deeply personal issue These guys should want to be at each other's throats any chance they get. And when they can stand in the ring side by side, not wanting to kill each other, where's the fucking heat? So I think maybe after they, settle their issue on Sunday, that will be the end of it. And maybe they can team back up again. And very, very short-lived, rivalry there when they broke up, but maybe they come back together. We've all been there, right? Dudes, am I right? You've had a falling out with one of your bros. Not many of us have had, last man standing matches with our friends, but, sometimes you have a falling out and then, shake hands, squash it back to normal like nothing happened. So maybe that's down the road for Lashley, for Sheamus and Drew. I don't know, but got me thinking the way the show ended tonight that maybe they could be going in that direction because, as we talked about in the opening of the podcast here, in terms of WrestleMania, what do you think they could really do? What is the right call here with these guys? Just to have Lashley just beat Drew clean? I wouldn't necessarily complain about that, but they're not going to just, end Drew that way either. They want to keep him relevant, strong, or whatever. So that's why I think maybe some sort of a heel turn or something like that could happen with Drew actually regaining the title and then maybe dropping it back to Lashley at another pay-per-view prior to SummerSlam, and then maybe Lashley goes in to face Brock. There's been talk of Brock turning up for this year's WrestleMania, but I don't think so. Not with them making Lashley and Drew official. There's no open door there for him to come in. If he did, it wouldn't be in a title match, and it would have to just be kind of a last-minute thing. So I think we're not going to see Brock. Doesn't look like we're going to see Triple H. So in previous years, the fans have done a lot of complaining about WrestleMania relying on stars of the past, relying too much on stars of the past. And they never, give the people, their current roster guys, a chance. It feels like they're doing that a lot now, but a lot of it's falling flat due in large part to that line of thinking. The fact that for all these years, WWE didn't allow themselves a lot of growth with some of these wrestlers because they spent too much time having these big stars on the marquee. Now they find themselves in a position where you got no Taker, no Triple H, no Brock, no Rock, none of these guys to really give you that big attraction. You got to rely on what you got. Looks like the biggest outsider that's going to be involved here is Shane McMahon and Bad Bunny for the most part. There's not going to be a Brock or anything like that this year. So you got to rely on who you got, which would be fine for a fan like me. But, some of these guys haven't gotten over to WrestleMania, show-stealing, sellout degree. You know what I mean? So I think they got strong world title matches. I think Lashley and Drew, depending on how it's booked and what the outcome is, depending on how it goes, I think it has potential to be good. And Roman and Edge, I always thought would be good. I've only been having my doubts recently. But in the end, I still think those four, unless they add a component there, I think those four will do just fine in those main event roles. You're going to have Randy Orton versus The Fiend, which we know will be super fun. We're going to have a couple of big women's title matches, which should be good. Sasha and Bianca should be very good. And whatever Charlotte and Asuka and Ripley do should also be very good. Those women are pros. They can go out there and have a 5-star match of the year, match of a lifetime. But if the wrong person wins, the fans ain't going to give a fuck. If Charlotte wins, it doesn't matter if it's a 6-star match. Their day is ruined. So there's potential there, but there's also a lot of downside, I think, for some of these matches at WrestleMania that if they don't go off perfectly or if they're not executed right, that, this might be a shitty WrestleMania. We got the tag match as well. That's pretty much set. Bad Bunny and Damian Priest, Miz and Morrison, and New Day versus AJ and his man. And then I guess we'll do some SmackDown tags on the other side. Probably an Intercontinental title rematch, perhaps, between Big E and Apollo Crews, assuming that whatever happens this Sunday will not be the end of their deal. Do we get the Battle Royals? Do we still get the women's and the Andre? I think we get that. We're going to have, and Matt and Strowman and Shane is probably set for something. Still don't know what Owens is going to do. Cesaro and Seth will probably be doing something. So there's still a lot to do, but no John Cena either. There's another name I should have mentioned. No Cena. What's up, Jordan Karg? How was Raw? Not great tonight. You are just fine missing it. It's all right. Don't worry. They did announce a lot for WrestleMania, but for the most part, you didn't miss too much. Just watch the YouTube clips or just go on one of the wrestling websites and just read the results. It should bring you up to speed. And like I said, it wasn't a very good show, but they did give us a lot. They did give us a lot of WrestleMania stuff in terms of what they plan to do and shit like that. So this could be worse than WrestleMania 9. Perhaps, maybe it could be. We'll find out. It's going to be tough to be worse than that, but they could. Transroad Uganda. I don't know when Becky is coming back. I kind of thought we might see her for WrestleMania, but, you know, if we're going to have any big surprises or anything like that, I feel like next Monday would be the night to set that up. You know, next Monday is going to be the 22nd. You know, WrestleMania is on the 11th or 10th or whatever. So, you know, it's coming up, man. You don't have forever to deal with this shit. I think after Fastlane, we have 3 Raws, correct? 3 Raws prior to WrestleMania. Yeah. So they only got 3. So if you're going to do a surprise like a Brock, like a Becky, or do anything to spice up the card, you're going to have to do that seriously next week. And I mean, at the absolute very, very, very latest, the week after that. But I don't know. I'm not feeling Becky. I don't feel like anything has been, you know, and no hints have been dropped on that. I think maybe a Becky appearance at WrestleMania would be very cool. I'd be into that, just showing her face there. Maybe she comes out and confronts the winner of whoever wins what hopefully is the triple threat match for the Raw Women's title. Ripley, Charlotte, Asuka. If that match happens, let's say Ripley wins, and then maybe Becky comes out and has a little stare down face-to-face with her or something like that. But that's going to put a lot of good... I mean, that's a great core 4. I've said that before. On Raw, I mean, Charlotte, Becky, Asuka, Ripley. Holy shit. That's all right there. Everybody else is just bottom tier compared to those 4. Those are all champions, you know, and all world champions at the top there, which is pretty good. So, you know, maybe Becky comes out to confront somebody after the match, or maybe Becky just does a fun backstage segment with the baby. Maybe she shows up with the little Bexter and says, look what I had. Look at this thing. This little fucker, all he does is cry and shit his pants and eat. But we love him. We love him. So I don't know. I'd love to see Becky at least. I'd just like to see her face, you know, at WrestleMania. Just see her there. Potentially maybe at the Hall of Fame too. Apparently they are going to be pre-taping the Hall of Fame, or at least part of it, before that airs on Peacock. So I guess that's all right. You know, it's hard. It's kind of hard to do that live without it really dragging out and shit. So if they edit it, it's not going to be like Hall of Fame's past, but at least it's a Hall of Fame. Hopefully on the other side of this pandemic, we can get back to the way Hall of Fames used to be, because now we're going to be 3 years removed from the last time we really remember enjoying it, because that year that the Hart Foundation went in, that new setup they did was terrible. And I have a feeling, knowing WWE, this is going to be the Hall of Fame set going forward, and I don't like it. So maybe next year we can go back to something a little bit better than what they did in 2019. Oh yeah, 11's worse than 9. 11's worse than 9. There's a lot of shit on WrestleMania 11. It just didn't come off well at all. I didn't like it. Hartford, really? Yeah, this next thing on my list, I got to scroll up and catch the super chats. I know there's 2 or 3. I think Becky and Seth's baby has embraced the vision. It better whip that baby into shape. You can't just be walking around not embracing visions. You know what I mean? Come on now. Yeah, they probably got that kid all trained up. Seth doesn't play any games, you know? Let me cruise up here, knock out those super dupers. There's one from Deshaun. Good to see you in here, man. Thanks for the $2 from you as well. Did you hear about the outbreak in NXT recently? Yes, I meant to talk about that earlier on. Thank you for that reminder. I did hear about it, but all I did was hear about it. All I know is there's a handful of talent that has been that tested positive for COVID. They have not released these names as of yet, but word is it is going to dramatically affect the show on Wednesday. So that sucks, and that's something that's going to happen. There was also the report that Vince McMahon was very upset at the talent for not taking proper safety precautions for COVID, which I can kind of understand that. I think anybody in, in a sport, you want your teammates, guys, we've seen, basketball players and football players get fined, for not wearing a mask or getting busted doing something or whatever. So you want your talent and everything to, be careful and take the right precautions, of course, but it's kind of funny hearing Vince get all concerned about safety when these assholes absolutely flat out refused to suspend even 1 day of business. When you're canceling entire NCAA tournaments, I think you even had a break in the basketball while they kind of, regroup their shit. Everything was shut down. And here WWE is just going on and on and on. It took them forever to implement the testing and shit like that. I think AEW was a little bit ahead of the curve with WWE on that. And then they finally did start the testing. And then even that was kind of like, we heard all the stories about how hot it was in these tents and how just shady and just, it just sketchy the whole thing was. It took them a while to kind of, to kind of get it together, but they never paused business to get that shit together. They kept going on with business as it was, before all these precautions were really in place, and they had outbreaks. They had to change pay-per-views. They were acting pretty irresponsibly. And now we hear the report that at WrestleMania, they want to have 45 or 50,000 people there. And then Vince is going to be pissed about precautions. So basically he's like, I want my talent to remain cautious so they can be healthy enough to make me money at WrestleMania. But all these fans, fuck them. In fact, that 10% of them are probably going to get sick. Let's cram them all in there, at 50,000 capacity or whatever. And it's all about just them wanting to be the first thing to have fans there and all that shit. Because if you notice, they canceled, I think today or something was supposed to be the release date for the tickets, and they postponed it. They even announced it on Raw that they're going to have a new ticket release date this week or in the upcoming week. So apparently they postponed that so they can figure out a way to, I guess, reconfigure the stadium or make the tickets available properly and to be sold. And I think it's all about them just wanting to, make their stupid WWE statement, that we were the first ones. The 9/11 thing was cool. They were the first public gathering after the 9/11 attacks. And I don't think that was really done for any self-promotion. That was all of us really coming together. But WWE, they want so desperately to be the first entity to do anything. They want to have the most people, the biggest public gathering, which I don't know if that's the kind of publicity you want, the way there's still, many people are still are very uptight about this. And, I don't think anybody should be doing events in April with 50,000 people. I really, really think we're getting close to where that can happen in the next year or so or less. But I just don't quite think we're there yet. So when you hear that story about Vince like all pissed at the talent, I'm like, bitch, look in the mirror. It's like that tweet I saw the other day. Why my computer asking me if I'm a robot? Bitch, you the robot. That's the way I feel about Vince. I was like, you're talking about the pot calling the kettle black. Jesus, man. So apparently he's upset with the talent, and they should. And he does have a point. It's just, for him to coming from them, that's pretty crazy when it seemed like precautions or, being careful was the last thing they cared about when this thing broke. The only thing that mattered to them is maintaining business without losing a day of it. That's it. Talent safety came second. So he's full of shit if he really cares about people's safety. He cares about his money. He wants to keep his money safe. He doesn't care about the talent. So, and he certainly doesn't care about the fans if he's willing to cram 50,000 idiots in there. So, yeah. Funny stories all around. Spectra, thanks for 5 more from you as well, man. WWE really making me not want to watch Mania. Only match I'm going to care about might be Fiend and Randy Orton. Only going to watch Fastlane for Alexa and Randy. That match is intriguing. Whatever's going to go on there with Bliss and Orton, I'm slightly intrigued in that. But yeah, they're going to have to, and a big part of this Spectra too, like I've said a million times, is the fact that they have pay-per-views in the way. Fastlane is sitting here in the way, and it shouldn't be here, and it's created an obstacle for WWE and their storytelling and their booking because they already don't know what they're doing as it is. They're already flying by the seat of their pants with no well thought out plans, no long-term booking, nothing like that. They're just making the shit up as they go along with these obstacles in their way, which makes it even worse. That's why these storylines are just so empty. They're trying to build this big WrestleMania match between Shane McMahon and Braun Strowman based on that Strowman wanted an apology for being called stupid. That is how you build a WrestleMania match? I'm sorry. But that's fucking lame and lazy. And how you got 6-figure writers back there writing this type of nonsense is fucking ridiculous. Ridiculous. But then again, people like Bruce, people like John Laurinaitis, they don't really speak up when something's stupid. They just go ahead and do it anyway. It's what we've come to expect from these guys. Martin Can, appreciate the 10 from you too, dude. I think something will happen to Alexa that might have her be out for a bit. Basically, Bray takes over the story. Then she comes back as a Fiend of her own to do her own story like Bray the Fiend. She could be like this, maybe Sister Alexa. Because is Sister Abigail really dead? Like, did Randy Orton did something to her? He burned her or something in the last time they feuded or something. Can she be resurrected? But yeah, maybe Randy Orton, because Alexa has had Randy's number every week on TV. So he needs to get some revenge in order to draw out the Fiend out of hiding or out of, the hole that he's in or whatever. So I can see that happening with Randy Orton doing something pretty devastating to Alexa Bliss on Sunday. And then that draws out the Fiend. Alexa Bliss is gone for a while. But, then again, I'm not Alexa Bliss has been great in this role, and as good as she's being, I'm not leaving her off WrestleMania. She's probably not going to be in a match, although she might be. But I think her presence still needs to be in the Fiend and Randy Orton match somehow, because Alexa's been carrying the weight here, and then you're just going to boot her off TV. So I kind of like what you're saying in principle, except for her being gone for a while. I think maybe after WrestleMania, maybe something happens to her at WrestleMania. But for Alexa Bliss, for that to happen, that means she's not on the show, and that's not fair. Alexa Bliss has been one of the best parts of Raw, and you don't reward that type of performance and those type of performances by leaving you off the card. So I wouldn't do that. But something similar to what you're saying there, I certainly see potential for sure. Yeah, 50,000 people. 50K. Hey, if people are willing to buy the tickets, then fucking do it. I know UFC is going to run a show, full capacity, but they're only going to be around 15,000. So maybe WWE heard that, and they're just so hell-bent on, no, we want to be the best, It's always this pissing match with these guys for some reason. Oh, I did see that actually, K-Dog. So they are going to do Strowman and Shane again for Fastlane. Should have mentioned that earlier on. That match is now booked for Fastlane. But I have a feeling they can do something and still do the WrestleMania match, because how are you going to put this whole bullshit together in 2 or 3 weeks, and then they do the big match at Fastlane, and then what do? Nothing at WrestleMania? They both go on to face other people? It's got to be Strowman and Shane again at Mania. So I think whatever they do there will result in a gimmick match being booked of some kind at WrestleMania, especially if Strowman and Shane is just a regular match confirmed for Fastlane. Shane will do something shitty. Strowman will challenge him, or something will happen. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know I have no idea what they have planned there at all. Yeah, Wilson, I'll even go you one better. The way you have it right. I mean, at the very maximum, I think one pay-per-view should be in between Rumble and WrestleMania. I could almost live with that, because they have been doing that now for 25 years. They began to, 96 was the first year they started doing a February pay-per-view. And I did feel like that was a bit much, but it always worked out more or less in most years. Didn't fuck up or gum up the works too bad. Now you got two, and they're usually just weeks apart, and you're doing this in a time when the creative team and the creative motivation and the writing in WWE is more a mess than it's ever been, and this just adds to it, because they don't plan anything ahead of time at all. They just drop shit and change directions in the middle of angles. And like I said, I felt like tonight they planted just a tiny bit of a seed for Drew and Sheamus to get back on the same page. Here they've had this, brutal rivalry stemming from this betrayal, this lifelong friendship. These guys have wanted to tear each other's heads off, and they're already teasing that they might be friends again before they even have their fucking blow-off this Sunday. So I think they just, like I said, they fly by the seat of their pants, and storylines suffer for it. We've seen that. Capacity for Raymond James is about 66, and they're planning to do about. See, that's the thing. If the capacity is 66, that's all it is at Raymond James. Only 60. I always thought there would be more than that. Well, I guess there would be more for a wrestling show, because you're gonna have the floor, but you might not have the floor seats. I mean, it's gonna be distance floor seats if you do. But normally, you would think that 15K, or at least 10,000 seats would have to be blocked off anyway, just for the set. If you're doing, full capacity, but then you add a lot of seats on the floor. Yeah, No Way Outs were good. There were some decent No Way Outs, even though some of them felt a little bit forced. I did not like the one in 98 because Shawn was out for that, and it was just, kind of a dud. The one in 2001 was pretty predictable, because you knew with WrestleMania on the horizon and Angle being champ, and then facing The Rock at No Way Out, of course Rock's going to win the title and go on to face Austin, So sometimes they're unnecessary, but for the most part, they haven't caused too many problems. Where nowadays, when you have two, it's just way too much, man. Way too much. And especially now, with Elimination Chamber, I even softened my stance on that a little bit, because I used to be so very much against Elimination Chamber. But then when they created the Universal title and we had two titles again, I was like, oh, well, now you kind of need it, because you can use the Chamber to determine challengers for the other titles. Like the Rumble winners will get belts, but they'll get title shots. But then you got two other titles. So using Elimination Chamber to determine those contenders would be a good use, I suppose. So I was almost even willing to accept Elimination Chamber, even though I hate the match concept and hate literally everything about it since it was created. I know we've had a couple of good ones. First one was okay. We've had some that have been all right, but for the most part, I hate the concept. But now you have the Elimination Chamber this past week or this past month, and you didn't do anything. The women's match didn't determine anything, and Drew defended the title. It was just, oh my God. So they didn't even use it for the intended purpose that I thought they were going to keep it around for. And now we have Fastlane as well. Dump the fucking chamber and just do Fastlane, call it a day. Fine, if No Way Out is dead, we can live with Fastlane. I get it. Fastlane to WrestleMania, get it? Yeah, I get it. That's all we need. We don't need two, WWE. Are any of you monkeys watching in WWE? Go to Vince and tell him to get rid of Elimination Chamber. Yeah, 3 stages of hell. I had suggested that last week for Drew and Sheamus. Remember, after they did that little is there a stip for that match at Fastlane between those two? I feel like there should have been, the way the match ended last week and the way they've already had a regular match and Drew beat him. Then they did a match last week and they did the double count out, right? And now they're doing Fastlane. I was assuming that it would be some sort of like last man standing or some bullshit like that. And I thought, based on how good Sheamus's work has been lately, Sheamus has been incredible the past few months. It's almost a shame that, he's probably, he's not going to be getting the belt or anything anytime soon, because I think he's earned it just with his work and everything. I think he's done really well. And I think if you put him and Drew in one of those 3 stages of hell type of matches, that could be fun. And that could be an excellent way to blow off the issue between those guys. But as far as I know, it's no stip involved at the moment. Yeah, I think that's the most fun about Randy and Alexa, is that you don't know what to expect. But I can't wait to see what happens either. I have not heard Kurt Angle's podcast yet. I have heard good things, though. I need to listen to it. 5 episodes deep already? Holy shit. Oh, wow, and they've already discussed No Way Out matches with Rock and Taker. What year was Taker? 02 or something? Yeah, Drew and Sheamus should be last man standing. You would think it would be something. The fact that there's no stip there is a little weird. Kiss My Foot match, that would be good. Sheamus loses, brings in Isaac Yankem Jr. Isaac Pullum or something. I don't know. That would be hilarious. Yeah, I don't know. Where was the where's that news I read earlier on? Okay, there's the Shane McMahon and Braun Strowman match. That match is set now for Fastlane, and it doesn't look like that's got a stip either. A stupid match, that's what they should call it. Here's what we got for Fastlane right now. Now it is official. Roman Reigns defending against Daniel Bryan. Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre. Alexa Bliss versus Randy Orton. Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon. Big E defending the IC strap against Apollo. And Nia and Shayna defending the tags against Bianca and Sasha Banks. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 matches now. So they basically added 3 tonight, because I think over the weekend we only had 3 announced. Now we've got 6. They'll probably tack on one more on Friday on SmackDown. What do you think? Are they going to add Seth and Cesaro to this, or push that to Mania? I'd rather than push that to Mania. They could add a tag title maybe for SmackDown. We'll probably get a rematch. How much you want to bet? At least on the kickoff for Fastlane. Maybe we get a Hurt Business New Day rematch or something. New Day then retains and then goes into Mania to face AJ. Yeah, but that's 6 matches so far for that. We'll be up here, by the way, this Sunday, so make sure you are here. I will post the link in a couple of days. We'll be here doing a full review of Fastlane after the show, and we should have a lot to talk about. Yeah, Trey, I have no memories of that one at all. No Way Out, 2008, Elimination Chamber and Triple H. God, I don't even remember who was in that, who won it, nothing. Triple H maybe won it. That was 2008. That was the year Flair retired, I guess, right? So what did Triple H do that year at WrestleMania? Was he involved in a triple threat or something? I don't even remember. Belfast Brawl. Yeah, something like that. Some weird little tag. I just cannot believe they did not set any of that up tonight on Raw between those two. Or at least do a no count out or just no DQ or no something. Yeah, 6 matches are enough, but not if they tack on one on the kickoff. There's definitely room for one more. Because you throw one of these on the kickoff, then you're looking at a 5-match card. Doesn't look like anything here is really kickoff worthy, which is the good news, except for maybe the women's tags. But if they plan to put the belts on Sasha and Bianca, which I have a feeling they will, I've just got this feeling, because that's what they'd love to fucking do that. Then that probably won't be on the kickoff. I think they're going to add one more. And plus, Alexa Bliss and Randy Orton, you have to remember, what kind of match is that really going to be? How long is that whole segment? How long can that really go? Because you can't really get a match out of them. So the whole thing, you got to pencil in 10 minutes for that. Now, how much longer could it really be other than that? Unless the Fiend shows up and we get some long brawl between him and Randy Orton. Alexa and Randy will probably go by pretty quick. I doubt they're going to give a ton of time to the women's tags either. So we'll see. Oh, I remember a lot of it, Barry. I just don't remember modern shit because things got different. My memory is sharp as a tack, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and even probably all the way up until around 2005. But then after that, it is a blur because a lot of the shit sucked after that. Wrestling is nothing now. It moves too fast, too much stuff going on, 145 pay-per-views a year, just crazy title changes, and 19 title changes a month. Back when you'd get 2 title changes a year spanning the NWA and WWF. Very easy to remember and shape those memories. Now, guys have moved on to new angles before the current one is over. It's just so fast, and a lot of it's just rinse and repeat nonsense. None of it means anything. And none of it really created for me any real true history except for the big moments, your WrestleMania main events, your Ric Flair or Shawn Michaels retirements, and things like that, your big moments. Of course I remember, but I am not going to remember some mid-card fucking match on a February pay-per-view. Don't give a fuck. Never will. And all these EC matches are the same way. These chamber matches, a million different guys in there. None of it matters. None of it goes down in history, is the best shit ever. It's just same shit, all of it. Chris, thanks for the 5. Is it just me, or has WrestleMania not felt like a big event since 2012? I don't know. I thought 30 felt pretty big. WrestleMania 29 felt big. It was just a letdown. I loved the vibe of 29. I loved the big set, the big Statue of Liberty over the ring and the Brooklyn Bridge and all that stuff they did. It all looked good. The pay-per-view just sucked, that's all. But I think leading up to that, it had a decently big vibe, and then 30 was good. 32 felt kind of big because of the attendance, but that show sucked as well. I think it's had their moments where it still felt like a big show. I enjoyed 34. I enjoyed 33. Those WrestleManias were good. So WrestleMania's has its ups and downs. In its early days, it felt enormous, especially after WrestleMania 3 happened. Then it was a big deal. And then I remember, WrestleMania 5 kind of being a little bit of a letdown from the previous years. Then WrestleMania 6 was right back at it again. And then WrestleMania 7 was a little down. 8 was up. 9 was down. 10 was up. 11 was down. 12 was so-so. 13 was so-so. Had some good matches on both of those. 14 was all right. 15 sucked again. 16 sucked again. 17 was the best ever. So, it just depends. It depends on what the, what the temperature of the water is and what's going on in the wrestling universe at the time. But yeah, 31 was all right. 31 didn't have that big time feel though, with everything they had going on. I think it being in the daylight really sucked. I think WrestleMania is out here in California. That does pose a problem because, for Sting to make that entrance in broad daylight was ridiculous. That's something that needs to be in the dark, and all that shit. And that's why going to Arizona where 26 was, it stayed bright out the whole damn time because of that dome. And if they ever, and when they come to LA, I'm assuming that Wi-Fi, or what's it called, SoFi, will be the same way for WrestleMania 39 as well. I gotta check my Twitter from Deshaun. Thanks for that $2. What did you send me? I hope no nudes. Oh, good. Oh, you did a face swap on Randy Orton and Alexa Bliss. Yeah, I don't really like Alexa Bliss with the facial hair. I kind of like her without it. I prefer it. I prefer her without it. How do you guys feel about that? Alexa Bliss with a beard or no beard? Cast your votes in the chat. Who knows what freaky shit y'all are into? Oh, you were there at 35. Yeah, 35 felt a letdown to me as a fan at home, but being there was probably pretty cool, Jordan. I had so much fun being there, but if I was home watching it, probably would have been disappointment, exactly what I just said. Yeah, being at WrestleMania, I was at WrestleMania 15 and had a blast. But that WrestleMania sucked ass, man. So I've been to a lot of shows, actually, that kind of sucked. Well, no, I've been at some great shows, but I was at King of the Ring 99. That wasn't very good. I had a great time. I was on the floor, sat right next to that super fan Vlad that we see in the front row of every show. That wasn't very good. I was at Unforgiven 99. That wasn't very good either. All three of those shows I attended in 99 weren't very good. So yeah, but going to a show is just a whole different story, because you're just there to have a good time, drink beer, you're hooting and you're hollering. And if you're going to a show and you're leaving all pissed and pissy about the booking and stuff, you are just not capable of having a good time. There's probably a couple pay-per-views. Like if I was at the Royal Rumble 2015, I probably would have been pissed at the end of that. Like a couple of those pay-per-views where the fans really sabotaged it. But, if you're going to a show and you're spending your money and you're putting your hard money down to look for something to complain about, that's a poor use of your money. You can do better things with it. But there are certain occasions where it's warranted. Yeah, WrestleMania 15 was just a cluster, man. They had nothing good going on there. And was it WrestleMania 16? I think it was 16. That was the one where it didn't have like any one-on-one matches, right? Everything was a tag or a four-way or a three-way or a hardcore battle royal or a TLC match or something like that, right? I don't think they had any one-on-ones on it at all. If they did, it was maybe one. Well, that sucks. My favorite Mania setup or the ramp, it's going to have to be something after fucking 17. Anything 21, 22, 23, 24, 20. I like 24. I like 24. I liked 25. 26, it was okay. 26 kind of looked the same as all of them. 27. 27 was all right because I had that big WrestleMania thing around the front. I did like that. I don't know what my favorite one was. There's a lot of them that I like. I like 28. I like 29. I like 30. 30 looked pretty cool. 31 looked all right. I don't even remember really 32. The only thing I remember about 32 is The Rock lighting his name on fire. 33 was awesome with the roller coaster. 34 wasn't bad with the New Orleans theme, so I don't know if I have a favorite. Ronnie Matthews, you remember when the Quebecers defeated 1-2-3 Kid and Jannetty in January 94 at a house show, then Diesel defeated Backlund November 94 at a house show. WWF went through 95 and 96, started having tons of title changes in house shows. They did that in 93 too. They did that in 92. They did that a lot. 92, we had some title switches between, I think LOD and Money Inc. or maybe Natural Disasters, something like. I know LOD dropped the titles at a house show, and then they showed up at WrestleMania with Paul Ellering with them. I think it was at a house show. Maybe it wasn't a house show, but they did some title changes there as well. They did it with the Steiners and Money Inc. They did it with the Steiners and the Quebecers, I even think, as well. And Sean and Diesel won the titles from the Head Shrinkers the night before SummerSlam in 94 at a live event as well. So that was something they would do from time to time. Most recent one I can remember, I think they did a switch with Mysterio and Andrade at MSG, right? Year or two back for the U.S. Mania 36, bed, bast, or what category? It's definitely not in my best. It's definitely in my worst. It's a bad category. Not entirely their fault. Had that show gone off without a hitch with 80,000 fans and Raymond James, I think it would have been pretty cool. But where they were. I swear to Jesus, I'm never going to go back and watch that show again. It was so fucking depressing. Nothing on that show. Maybe the Firefly Funhouse. Maybe I'll watch that, or at least a clip of it. But the rest of it can suck my butt. Just hated it. Just hated the vibe. We were just only a few days into this, a couple weeks into this pandemic, and life was freaky, and we had no toilet paper, and it was a mess. Not fun times. But we were here every night, pandemic TV. I was out of work. We were up here doing a lot of chatting. Deshaun Robinson, appreciate 2 more from you. You've been to Mania. Holy shit, you've been to Mania 20, 24, 25, 30, 31, 34, and 35. That's an impressive resume. You were there at 20. You were in MSG. That was probably pretty awesome. You've been to 20 and 30. That's cool. 24 was probably good to go too. You witnessed the Shawn and Undertaker match. You witnessed Daniel Bryan. You witnessed the streak ending. You witnessed Seth cashing in, Brock leaving Roman in a pool of his own blood, piss, and vomit, and the first women's main event ever. You've witnessed a lot, dude. That's an okay resume. You've seen more than me. K-Dogs, Ken, appreciate the 5 from you too, dude. Thoughts on the championship scramble matches that took place at Unforgiven in 2007? Don't remember much about those either. Isn't that how they got the belt off of CM Punk? Didn't they just get him out of the match or somehow backstage and then he lost the belt that way? Again, scramble, I don't like scramble matches. These concepts they just come up with is just because they're running out of ideas, and I felt like this was one where they was like, I don't even know the rules to that, where they add another guy. It's kind of like a gauntlet-ish, sort of. I don't even really know how it works. I think you can have multiple title changes in a scramble, though, if my memory serves. I don't know. Yeah, not a huge fan of the scramble matches either. By the way, Cake Dogs Kennel, it's you, right? I got my folder made. You've got a review coming up next month. We'll do that in April. It'll be a live stream. We'll come up here one night and talk about the Royal Rumble 1993. Going to do a little review on that show. That had some fun stuff. Yoko winning the Rumble. Brett and Razor one-on-one. One of my favorite Rumbles ever. I think that was also the Shawn and Marty IC match. That was a good Rumble. I've only had a couple of Guinness beers in my life. Not a big fan of the stouts and the heavy beers. I can drink them sometimes on a special occasion, but I'm a simple man, and I just kind of like casual drinking beer. And I do like IPAs, and I like local breweries and local beers and stuff, IPAs and pale ales, and and when I'm just chilling, I'll drink a Pilsner like a Stella or something. But I usually don't get into the heavy ones and the double and the triple stouts and the chocolates, and that's just not me. But I have plenty of friends who are beer snobs, and they thumb their noses on the rest of us. They just like to keep things a bit simple. I mean, I'm not that simple. I ain't drinking PBR or nothing, but, there's some stuff I just don't like. I've done one Jaeger bomb in my life, or one car bomb in my life. Those are gnarly. So, yeah, I got a little bit of an experience with Guinness. Normally, Wilson, I would say no. They will never do a small WrestleMania again, but and actually, I still say no. I think cramming people into a confined space, they're going to keep it open, in big places for a while, and I think it's going to be that way. Maybe, WrestleMania 40, the location has not been announced. They could technically go back to Madison Square Garden. I don't think they will. I think that going back to MetLife, though, is a possibility, and if they are going to keep WrestleMania as a 2-day event, when we get to WrestleMania 40, or you could bring back the 2-day event just for WrestleMania 40, and you could do a dual show. Maybe night 1 at the Garden, night 2 at MetLife, or something like that. Would be kind of cool. Or maybe night 2 in the Garden. I don't know. As a talent, I don't know where I'd prefer to be. If I'd probably prefer to be in the Garden. And as a fan, I don't know which one I'd prefer to attend. The Garden show or the MetLife show. Don't know, but I think it would be cool because that would be the only chance of WrestleMania ever going back to the Garden. I don't think it ever will as a standalone show, but if you 2-night this thing, like back how they used to run the Paramount across the street from the Garden, they would run shit there. They did that in 94. They had people there watching on closed circuit. Randy Savage went over there and made an appearance. So if you did something similar and you did a two location thing where, it's at MetLife, but you're going to have one part of the show in the heart and where WrestleMania was born, I think that would be very cool. They did that for the Raw 25. It was kind of a failure, but I did appreciate the effort to go back to the Manhattan Center for portions of that Monday Night Raw for the Undertaker promo and the click shit and all that. But it kind of sucked, but it was still kind of cool that they went there. If they do it and do it good and do it right, then I think a dual show would be good. That would probably be the only way it'll return at number one to Madison Square Garden or return to a small arena is if it's a 2-night event type of deal, or if just business just shit cans itself. And but I don't think it will. I mean, no matter how bad the ratings are and shit, I think WrestleManias are always going to draw. They are. They're always huge for the channel here. We always do good numbers at WrestleMania time. Lots of new subscribers coming in. Even if the shit sucks, people are paying more attention, this time of year than normal. Am I a fan of corned beef Reuben sandwich? Hell yeah, I'll eat a good Reuben. Hell yeah, a little rye and some green mustard or something. Hell yeah, or some Thousand Island, I guess they serve Reubens with. It's got to be good, good corned beef, like homemade and shit. Thanks, Barry, for the 2. What's a non-WWE show you wish you were at? Oh my God, there's a ton of them. Probably WrestleMania 10. Really would have liked to be there. Something more, non-WWE, sorry. Couple of War Games shows. Definitely one of you, maybe like Starrcade 83. Would love to be at Starrcade. ECW, Barely Legal, first ever pay-per-view. That would have been awesome to be in attendance because that night was jacked. I ordered it on pay-per-view that night, and I'll never forget rushing home to get home in time and watching it on my couch on my little Magnavox 19-inch 1997 TV. In the middle of deer shit, North Carolina. What great time. So probably like a couple of ECW pay-per-views, definitely Barely Legal, maybe one or two other, maybe be in attendance to witness that second Rob Van Dam and Jerry Lynn match, or the first one, which was just insane. Probably would have liked to be at Bash at the Beach 96 to watch the NWO formation. That would have been fun. Maybe the first Nitro that Scott Hall showed up on. What was the pay-per-view that Steamboat and Flair had the kick-ass match in 89? Forgot what that was called. Whatever that match was in 89. That was fun. Oh, man, Deshaun, thank you for that. $2 more. April 15th will be 1 year since Black Wednesday. That's true. All that talent was released. So sad. I am going to still attempt. It is on my list, and I haven't started on it yet, and I'm really worried that I can't get it done, but I'm going to do my best. I got 11 more days. I do plan to release a little video commemorating the 20th anniversary of the final Nitro. That's coming up on March 26th. The simulcast, the buyout, WWE taking over, and all of my memories of that. I plan on just pre-recording something and having that up on the 26th, which I believe is a week from this Friday. So I do still have that planned for the channel as a special video leading up to WrestleMania, because that was a big deal. That was a big, big deal, and I remember it well. Still have the original recording from that night. You can see me flipping back and forth from Nitro to Raw, Nitro to Raw. Chi-Town Heat, I don't think I'd want to be at Chi-Town Heat. That one was okay. That was a big mistake going to Chicago. Halloween Havoc, Hogan and Warrior, maybe, but that was the same show as DDP and Goldberg, and the rest of the fucking country couldn't see it because the pay-per-view shut off. So at least I would have gotten to see it. But the funny thing is, I've told that story before. I actually reviewed that whole pay-per-view. It's on my channel right now. You can look it up. Halloween Havoc 98. I ordered that night on pay-per-view, and it didn't shut off for me. It shut off for the entire world somehow. But I remember the pay-per-view blinking. Like I go to a black screen, but then it came back on. So for some reason, whatever the story was with my cable company or whatever, mine continued to play where a good portion of the country, their pay-per-view shut off. And WCW had to make it right, give us that match the next night on Nitro. But by then, the damage was done. But I didn't know. I didn't know till like the next day when I heard it in the hotlines that people were like, holy shit, the pay-per-view shut off. I remember it running long, but I remember being, holy shit, the pay-per-view is still going on. But I was able to see the whole match in its entirety. So I'm lucky, I guess. Yeah, maybe I didn't do an April Fool's video last year because everything was just a little scary and shit. So yeah, maybe I'll do one this year if I can figure out something to do in 2 weeks. Yeah, keep a lookout for that. Maybe we'll do that. No, I do not wish to be at Over the Edge. It's not even a funny joke. Oh no, I didn't think it was Chi-Town Heat. It might have been. It was. Why can't I think of what the hell? Maybe it was Chi-Town Heat. Okay. I thought you meant the one from 87, like the Starrcade one. Fuck, I forgot what the one that Flair and Steamboat wrestled on, but whatever. That one. Yeah, but other than that, just a couple WCW shows and a couple of ECW shows. Other than that, nothing really stands out of a non-WWE show that I'd like to be at, unless I go way back and we start looking at AWA. Would have loved to be in the crowd. I think they did it at the Showboat for the Bockwinkel-Hennig match where they were both bloody. Maybe the big match between Hogan and Bockwinkel when Hogan was supposed to win the title and he didn't, and got disqualified when he threw Bockwinkel over the top rope, and he was celebrating with the title, and they reversed the decision, and the crowd was fucking nuts that night. That would have been a cool one to be at for AWA. Yeah, I agree with you there, Ronnie. The one pay-per-view I would stay away from, even if it was for free, or even though it was for free, is WCW Road Wild. I would want no part of that at all. Can you imagine trying to take your wife and your kids, excuse me, crazy biker guys, while we go through here, we just want to get an autograph from Sting. Please don't fornicate my children. I'm not going to give you a Jackie or Buddy Strut. Hell no, man. That's too much. Y'all can't handle that. Y'all can't handle this. It's too much sexiness, man. You're just asking for trouble. Y'all are going to start passing out in your seats watching me strut around here in my unmentionables. Oh, we got Mr. Pico claiming the Braun Shane storyline is worse than Mae Young giving birth to a hand. I don't know. It's pretty close. I think Mae Young giving birth to a hand is slightly more believable than what we saw tonight, with Shane just beating the pure shit out of Braun Strowman. With the just the mere use of a camera to give him a little bit of help. Somebody that's half his age and twice his size, hit him with a camera. That was enough to knock him out. No reason to do a match at Fastlane. Shane wins. He wins the program. He wins the feud. Nothing that can be done now. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about the Rumble 93 review we're going to do next month. I totally forgot about the debut of Narcissus, as Bobby Heenan said. I remember not knowing what he was saying. I mean, I knew the word narcissist, but I didn't know that that's what Heenan was saying. I'm like, what the fuck is narcissist? And because it just came out funny. So when he's doing and Luger's posing and Bobby's like literally ejaculating over it, it was so funny. I'm like, what the fuck is narcissist? I was like, what a weird ass name is this? And then I got it. And then like a couple weeks later, when they started saying it right on TV, I'm like, oh, narcissist. I literally did not know what that word meant. The way he was saying them. I never heard it. And then when they started saying narcissist, I'm like, oh, what the F? That was funny. Yeah, 93 is good, man. 93 is good. I think I got it back there somewhere. Yeah, I got the VHS. Now we got a big ass 6-part bold prediction from Bob Holly. Good to see you in here, Sparky Plug. Welcome. My bold prediction before this was announced was going to be at Fastlane, Charlotte beats Asuka for the Raw Women's title. But after the match, she stares at the title for 5 solid minutes. She leaves the belt in the ring and walks off, vacating the title. Backstage to continue the assault. The match continues. Lashley closing in. Hurt Lock is applied. All of a sudden, Brock's music hits. Lashley's distracted, throws Miz to the side. Brock walks to the ring. Lashley gets rolled up. 1, 2, 3, new champ Miz. Okay, let's block Bob Holly. I'm kidding. Mania is set up with Drew versus Sheamus and Brock versus Lashley, but who will Miz fight? Monday night on Raw, Miz TV, who arrives? The Queen. She wants one more. Charlotte calls out the Miz. Gender barriers broken at Mania with the first female WWE champion. Oh, the fans would love that if Charlotte won the men's heavyweight title in the main event of WrestleMania. I'm sure the fans will be just jumping for joy. You don't think there might be a YouTuber or two with fire breathing out of their fucking nostrils or something like that happen? That would be hilarious. But man, that's quite the prediction. Vacating the title, huh? Miz going into as champion. Brock and Lashley, I feel like is going to happen. I think Lashley even just did an interview this week or today or something where he kind of said that he wanted to face Brock Lesnar at some point. So I feel like they will give us that. But bringing in Brock now would pretty much just be a desperation thing or a last minute thing or a shoehorning type of deal to get him involved. If they did call him and say, be here next Monday and let's get you into the main event of WrestleMania. Otherwise, I'm cool with Brock sitting this one out. Because you got to remember, Brock's taken a couple of losses. Brock got beat in his last match in 5 minutes by Drew McIntyre. He ain't coming back to lose. He's going to win his first match back or his first couple before he does another job again, because you want Brock Lesnar losing to be a big deal and to be a big feather in someone's cap. And if he just starts losing every time, that magic is gone. So I think after what happened to Brock a year ago, he's going to come back, bigger and better than ever. And he's probably going to win a little bit. Get used to the idea of when Brock comes back, he's probably going to win a match. Hate to break it to you. So if you do bring him back and you immediately go to Lashley and Lesnar, that's going to make me nervous. I'd almost rather have Lashley or Lesnar, have a couple of tune-ups, beat a couple of strong guys before getting to Lashley, and then Lashley can beat him. Because I would love to see that torch passed to Lashley as well. Now, if you turn this into a program, I'm also cool with that. You know what? I will even go as far as saying I'd be cool if Lesnar beat Lashley, provided Lashley turns around and wins the blow-off. You know what I mean? So if you do some sort of a program there, 6-month deal, of course, Brock will probably take a break in between then or something. Maybe even put the title back on Brock. He beats Lashley for the title, SummerSlam or something, or maybe even later on at Survivor Series, and then Lashley comes back and regains it at WrestleMania the following year. I don't know. But if he comes back, I think it needs to be more than just one match, Lashley versus Lesnar, Lashley wins. I think you can have more fun with it. So have him trade a couple of victories in order to, keep Brock a big deal and keep him strong, and maybe have him beat Lashley once and then Lashley come back and win the rematch, just like Rocky and Apollo or something, I wouldn't be against it. I don't know. I'm pretty sure, Trey, Brock is younger than Lashley. Correct me if I'm wrong. Pretty sure Brock and I are the same age, and I think Lashley's got a year on us both. So him being older isn't really, younger than Lashley, or at least the same age. But I still think Brock is, I know he's obviously not 2015 Brock, like you're saying. You're 100% right there. But I don't think that Brock has really declined that much. He's just, faced bigger and better people. Drew came up and beat him. I also think there's a match to do there with Roman. I think there's a story to be told there because Heyman is with Roman now. So when Brock does come back, what does Heyman do? Does he advocate for the both of them on separate brands, or do you bring them together and create the two-man power trip with Heyman playing the role of Vince? I wouldn't hate that either. That would eventually lead to something. But, with Brock coming back right off the bat, I think there's two matches immediately for him to have that could have a ton of story. One is with Lashley, one is with Roman. And don't anybody give me that, we don't want to see Brock and Roman again. Yes, you do. Because Brock versus Roman has never fucking happened. This Brock versus Roman, or this Roman, I should say, versus Brock has never happened. This is a whole new ball game being played now with this Roman Reigns and this attitude and how he's presented now on the roster. I really want to see that match. It will resemble nothing like what their other matches resembled. It'll be a totally different dynamic now. So I want to see that, and I want to see that. I want to see that conflict down the road, but you got to be careful how you book all that. You can't just have Lesnar come back and lose every fucking match he's in. It's not how it works. So he's going to have to win some, lose some, that sort of thing in order to preserve the sanctity of a Brock Lesnar loss. When he loses, the world should take notice. And if he just loses every fucking match, that's gone. So you got to rebuild that a little bit. And I think when he does come back, he should not necessarily win the title right away or anything, but just win some matches. But in order to win some matches, he has to wrestle in some matches, and that's not something that Brock is a fan of doing. We'll see. Yeah, Lashley's got a year on Brock. And then next week, speaking of guys not wrestling, Edge is booked this Friday for his first match on SmackDown in 11 years. That's cool. Him and Jey Uso. Winner becomes the special enforcer on Sunday at Fastlane. So that's very cool. Top 5 wrestlers to have never won the world title. I'm pretty much going to agree with most of yours there. Hennig, Razor, and Owen have always been on my list, along with Bulldog. Vader, maybe, but Vader at least was world champion. I always think of this question as world champion, and Vader did get that in WCW. You've got all the big ones there that I always consider. The other one, I would probably replace Vader with Bam Bam Bigelow. I think Bam Bam was Vader was awesome. I think Bam Bam was slightly more agile. He can do more stuff. He was very smooth in the ring. You know, for a big guy, for a 400-pounder, he did things in the ring and moved a lot like Randy Orton in some ways. He could just glide right up the top rope and hit that diving headbutt. He was very graceful. He could do the little spins and the cartwheels and the, you know, and the somersaults, and he could roll through. He had that, you know, how Eddie would sometimes roll through out of the frog splash if he missed it or something off the top rope. You know, Bam Bam could do a lot of that, and he was so athletic. And plus, he had a great look, and he got fire tattooed on your head. You should be a pretty big badass heel. Had, you know, big, strong 86 and 87 Hogan not being in the way, I think Bam Bam could have had a run, you know, with one of the titles. Piper was probably the best character, or probably the best person, probably the best, you know, legend, I guess, to never win. But in terms of what he could do in the ring compared to some of those other guys, I prefer Hennig, Owen. Yeah, Scott Hall was better in the ring than Piper, I believe. And so was Davey, and so was Bam Bam. Everybody on that list, all 5 of those guys, I think, are better in the ring than Piper. But Piper didn't have to be good in the ring. Piper had his mouth. Piper had his charisma, his personality. He was fucking nuts too. Yeah, that sadistic, psychotic side that we sometimes saw in Randy Savage when you were really quite afraid for your life sometimes because you didn't know what was going on inside of that noodle. And Piper was definitely there in terms of, you know, iconic stature. It's amazing that they never did give him the world title. I think WCW tried to or thought about it, but I still feel like in terms of workers, you know, it's crime that Hennig and Hall never got it. Brock losing to Seth is kind of laughable. Well, I mean, the way Seth was being put over at the time, I mean, I liked Seth. I liked Seth beating Brock. He beat him twice. They were trying to get him over as a top guy. I mean, I think it worked. I mean, Seth beating him would be no different really than a Shawn Michaels beating Undertaker or something like that in terms of like physical size. But in a real fight, yeah, kind of laughable. Hell, anybody beating Brock is kind of laughable when you think about it. Oh, I loved it a few years ago. What was it, the Royal Rumble? What year was it? 2018, 2019, when Braun got a little bit excited, got a little bit ahead of himself and laid in a real stiff knee to Brock, and Brock just punched him right in the face and told him to slow down. That was great stuff. Oh, my God. Yeah, well, look back at Brock in 2012. Brock wasn't in the greatest shape in 2012 when he came in either. He got in that shape in 2014 and 15. So Brock could easily get in shape again. Like I said, look at Lashley. He's a year older than Brock, and he looks like $1 million. So Brock could do it if he wanted to. Start training hard and all that. He could do it, but Brock's always going to be credible. Kane's one-day title run is a travesty. It is, but at the same time, that to this day, I think still ranks as my very favorite Monday Night Raw ever. Night after King of the Ring 98. I watched it in my apartment, fucking went nuts, had the volume up full blast when Austin hit Kane with the stunner and won back the title. That crowd in Cleveland was one of the most jacked Monday Night Raw crowds I can ever remember seeing. Great moment with Undertaker and Kane rising up at the same time, standing side by side, planting the seed for their alliance, planting the seed for the Highway to Hell coming up at SummerSlam. That was so stupidly good. Oh, man. And the opening promo that set all that up, they even had the Winged Eagle title out there. Oh, no, they didn't. That was later on, a couple months later. But when Vince was out there with the championship in the case, and then he gave it to Kane and presented it to him, and then Austin came out there and goaded Kane into a rematch with everybody kind of passing the buck, and then finally Kane nodding his head and agreeing, and the crowd popping. Austin had that like staph infection on his elbow. He had that big thing taped up. And oh my God, it was so good. That Raw was so good. If you've never seen Night After King of the Ring 98, Monday Night Raw, go watch it, and go watch it now. That's the way it used to be. And it was so great. It was so great. And hell, at that time, you know, I wouldn't really consider it a travesty because Kane was brand new. Glenn Jacobs had a terrible track record as Isaac Yankem and New Diesel. Kane was only at that time a 8-month-old character. Maybe 9. 8 to 9 month old character. Came in October at Bad Blood, and this is just shortly after WrestleMania. We're talking about summertime here. So probably about 9 months. That's it. And he was given the title already that fast. So taking it off of him the very next night, I don't think was that big of a travesty. It felt like a travesty looking back because Kane is such a legend. He should, he did wind up having a run with the title and stuff, but maybe then he should have gotten a little bit longer with it, but it sure set up for a great moment the next night on Raw. That is for sure. Yeah, me, Cena, and Brock, we were all born in the same year. Hilarious. Worst son of a legend? Oh, David Flair easily. Greg Gagne wasn't that bad. Greg Gagne was not my favorite, but there was a couple things he could do in there. I think he understood, wrestling a lot more than David Flair, where David Flair just looked like a fucking al dente piece of linguine trying to have a match in there. Yeah, I loved Foley winning the title on Raw, but here's the problem. I heard about the result way before Shivani said it on Nitro because Raw was taped the following night on Tuesdays during those days. So I would get the results of Raw the next morning. So I remember that Wednesday morning, I heard that Foley won the title, and I was like, holy shit. And then it was 5 more days until that match happened. So I was expecting it. If that was live, that would probably have it beat. If that was live on the USA Network and we were all watching that as it happened, it would have a bigger effect. And now it still had a great impact because that crowd was hot too, but it's still a taped show. And from my mind, I knew the result going in, which made it less of a surprise. Where the Austin stuff, you didn't know what the hell was going to go on there. So when he actually, plus in those days, you didn't see a lot of those one-night runs. We saw a couple, saw the 1 year before with Brett and Sid, but it wasn't a super common thing. So for Kane to win the title and Austin to take it right back from him was very cool. Very cool indeed. So that's why I'm giving the nod to that one. What was the other one you mentioned? Oh, Triple H. Yeah, Triple H's comeback on Raw, because that wasn't a great Raw. Like, that was a great moment and a great pop, but really even that was kind of a letdown. All they did was bring Kurt Angle out there so he'd get his ass kicked. It was pretty predictable that Triple H is going to come out there and beat up a heel, and he did, and that was it. And then they were the last 2 guys in the ring, I think, at the Royal Rumble, but I don't even remember that Raw. All I remember of that Raw is that ending segment with Triple H coming out to that big Madison Square Garden ovation. I remember literally nothing else about the show, where 98 was a whole different thing. So good. So much was set up there. So yeah, for me as a fan, that's why I'm not saying what I'm saying is the best Raw. It's the best one, the one I like the most. So you can feel free to like whatever one you like the most, but you got to remember that Foley match was taped. And even though Shivani was a shithead for saying it, any respectable mark or smark like myself or any respectable wrestling fan would have already known that result way before it came out of Tony Schiavone's face. So I think it was mostly the casual audience that they made the mistake there with, because people who maybe don't follow it so closely or just tune into wrestling on Mondays to have fun and don't even know shows are taped, because Raw was doing every other one at that time. And the trained ear can always tell when the show is taped. You can always tell when they're voicing the audio from The Office. You can always tell there's just a different frequency or something to it. You can hear it in their voices if you just really listen closely. So, to the casual fan, they don't know if Raw's taped or live or whatever. So when Shivani, made that comment, oh shit, let's go over there and see it. But I didn't need Shivani to spoil that for me. I spoiled it for myself. I already knew. Everybody thought Magnum could be the NWA Hogan. He had that Tom Selleck look. That mustache was very over back then. He was a good-looking guy, super sexy, mullet, motorcycle. Can't beat that shit for the South. I mean, that guy, Jesus. He had so many Crystals and Brandies and Tammy Joes throwing their panties at him. He didn't even know what to do. And had he not gotten injured and hurt like that, he would have definitely been a version. I mean, he would have been what Goldberg was to Austin. When you think about it, that would have been a fair comparison. Magnum and Hogan, if they would have strapped a rocket to Magnum and pushed him the way they pushed Goldberg when Austin was champion, that would have been very similar parallels there between those two, because Magnum could have came out there with an American flag too, and preached about America and take his vitamins and shit. He could have done some of the similar shtick, maybe just without he would have been a little bit less superhero-y and just a little bit more rugged. And probably would appeal to more than just the audience of kids, because kids looked at Hogan as a superhero. They thought he was fucking He-Man, with his colorful outfits and his yellow and his superpowers, and he's impervious to pain. You'd keep it a little bit more real with Magnum TA, I believe. to where he'd have that look, but he would, come out there in jeans and a motorcycle, maybe an earring, and, he'd just look a little bit more rugged, and he would appeal to a much wider audience. He would probably still appeal to the kids if they could factor some of that in. He would appeal to the male audience, because he's this big, rugged, tough guy that everybody likes, and he's cool and shit. He's got that James Deanishness to him. And then he would certainly apply to the ladies, making them a little moist in their nether regions with him coming out there being all sexy with the Tom Selleck mustache. So he would have reached, I think, a far greater demographic, or had a more diverse type of audience. But the audience, even though it would have been more diverse, probably still would have been smaller than Hogan's. But it would have given, it would have given Hogan, that babyface Hogan, a run for his money, because Hogan's counterpart in the NWA was Flair. He was their big star, but Flair was a heel. Hogan was a face. Big difference. Flair was in and out as a face sometimes, but for the most part, Hogan was superhero. Flair was the dirtiest player in the game. And if you bring in somebody like Magnum and you give him the title and you push him as strong as Hogan, and he's doing the same thing and having the same run in the South that Hogan's having in the North, I would love to see the way that would have played out. Absolutely. And how long it would have taken. Probably around 92, when the shit started hitting the fan. Vince would have called up Magnum, brought him up to the main roster, and Hogan would have beat him at WrestleMania. But who knows? That would have been that's one of the biggest what-ifs for all of us, I think, is had Magnum not gotten hurt. Oh, man, I think I'm going to get out of here now that we've been streaming for over 2 hours. But let me knock out another super chat or two, and then I'm going to bail out. Thank you again to Sean for $9.99 more. Appreciate you as always. Back in the day, I loved Backlash after Mania, which I do too. Which one is your best? Mine's 09, Cena vs. Edge, last man standing match, world title, Triple H, Shane, and Batista versus Legacy for WWE title. Okay, and Steamboat versus Jericho. That's right. I remember that Steamboat versus Jericho match. That was a good one. Any Backlash I think of is, going to be like an earlier one. I did like the one because, WWE made a big mistake at WrestleMania 16. What needed to happen was Triple H versus The Rock one-on-one with The Rock winning. And for some reason, they did that four-way bullshit, and it sucked. The next month, they did it right. They even tried to incorporate Austin, which I think was completely unnecessary, him being there, but he was there. So, yeah, I'd probably go Backlash 2000 when The Rock won the title from Triple H, because I'll never forget that ovation, that pop that night, how great all that was. So good. And Rock finally won and got the title. I think the year before was kind of cool too, because that was the blow off of Austin and Rock threw the smoking skull off the bridge, but then it was a fake out and he kept it. That one was pretty good. Backlash 01, I think, was the one where Austin and Triple H won the tags, I think, right, from Brothers of Destruction. And then they go on to have two separate singles at the next month. So I like some of those older ones. The one with Randy Orton and Mick Foley was also good. 04, Orton taking the thumbtack bump. Ew, that one was good too. But it's been a while. Like 09 is one of those years that's going to be really hard for me to struggle to remember precisely what happened. I do sort of remember the Edge and Cena stuff, and I definitely remember that Steamboat and Jericho match because Steamboat was so good. So good. Shawn Michaels and God versus Shane and Vince. Was that the same show? No, that would have been 06, I guess, right? No, definitely not that one. 5 more hours, I can't do it, man. I am spent. It's been another long 3 straight days of streaming. But you guys will get me a little bit earlier this week. Like I said earlier at the beginning of the podcast, no regular Winged Eagle on Saturday. I'm going to do one on Friday night after SmackDown. We're going to do a Friday night stream and a Friday night podcast this week. So keep a lookout for that. We'll be up right after SmackDown goes off the air. We'll review SmackDown. We'll touch on any wrestling news. We'll discuss AEW Dynamite and NXT a little bit if there's anything interesting to discuss there. And of course, we will predict the entire Fastlane card. And then on Sunday, we'll be up after Fastlane goes off the air for a full show review. So that's what's coming up on the horizon. A couple more watch-alongs between now and then. We got a big video coming up on the 26th to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the WCW buyout and the simulcast on TNT and USA. And then next thing you know, it's going to be WrestleMania time. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, guys. Thank you very much for hanging out tonight. I appreciate it as always. Have a good rest of your week.